of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Higgins, will you call the roll?
Alderman Campbell.
Present.
Alderman Concanon.
Present.
Alderman Demers.
Present.
Alderman Dillon.
Present.
Alderman Ferrulo.
Present.
Alderman Gately.
Present.
Alderman Lannon.
Here.
Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Here.
Alderman Tedesco.
Present.
President Tedesco, excuse me.
I make a motion to dispense with the reading of the previous journal.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to suspend the rules and pull from the Committee on Finance the capital budget fiscal year 2022?
Make it so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there also a motion to suspend the rules and to hear from His Honor the Mayor to speak, as well as any department heads here this evening?
So moved. So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mayor Galvin, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Tedesco, members of the City Council. I appreciate you taking the capital budget from committee to discuss tonight. You know, as you know, every year we do come down for an update of the 5-year capital plan, and I did submit to you at budget time the parameters of the capital budget, the 5-year plan. We've got about $108 million in projected spending over 5 years, covering everything from police, fire, DPW, some climate change initiatives, and also, of course, schools are funded in here as well. For tonight's purposes, what I'd ask you to do, if you would consider what's in front of you, is the pay-as-you-go portion, and that's about $3.7 million. I do have some of the department heads here tonight if you have any questions, or if not, I'd be happy to go over them line by line with you if you do. And in the plan that you have, they are listed as $3,448,435. That's general fund spending. There's an additional $290 from the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund retained earnings. So that's how we get to the 3.7. But as I said, there's a long list of capital items that we could start with, or if you have any questions, I'd be happy to. So.
Any questions or comments from the council? Alderman Gately?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. How are you tonight?
Good, Alderman. How are you?
Good. Nice seeing you.
You too.
I just got one question, same question I ask every year. The Parks Department. I don't see a lot of stuff being bought on their dime tonight. Now they need dump trucks, they need bigger mowers, they need help, they need, you know, what they're accomplishing. It's not getting smaller.
Well, there are two, again, two sizable, I think for the size of the department, there are two sizable expenditures under there. There is a dump truck under there for $70,000. We also have another cutter for another $18,000. So there is equipment there consistent with what we've been doing on a yearly basis for that department. And so I think that equipment is appropriate for the size of the department.
I question the size of the cutter. They cut a lot of big stuff.
They do, and I think if you go down to the garage, Alderman, you'll see there are quite a few cutters there. And the council has been very generous to that department and continues to fund the capital requests on a yearly basis.
The amount of time and what they do and how they use them, they do take a beating.
Yeah.
And they are in there for repairs quite a bit. You're gonna do what you gotta do, but someday I'd like to see them get a couple of big mowers, a little bit more help. They're not getting smaller.
You know, I'll take that under advisement, definitely, Alderman, but we have, and the council has, again, on a yearly basis, as you have to all departments, have been very generous with capital.
You did a great job with the Water and Sewer Department. I appreciate reading all that, that's good. You did good in this one. I have no complaints at all. It's just
Thank
a
you.
question.
That's a good question.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
One other point, Mr. President, there is, in addition to the $450 for the schools, for some items that they have, there's another $600,000 that has been approved for a feasibility study. I met with Superintendent Crowley and also John Wells to talk about the scope of that project, which again is to look at the the school buildings on a long-term basis. I know the council, a number of you had started just before COVID hit. I know a bunch of you had been on the tour to look at the buildings, the condition of the buildings, some of the newer buildings that are aging, but you know, again, I say with the school department, I think this is a wise expenditure. It's coming from their ESSER funds. That's the money the federal government has been giving, which the feds have been really generous to the schools, allowed them to do a number of things, in addition to what we've done as far as, you know, the laptops we've expended and some of the other expenditures that you guys have supported. So that's looking forward to the results of that. And if there's any other questions.
Alderman Mercer Bruin?
Just wanted to follow up on that, Mayor. So the feasibility study will produce, will it produce a list of things in a prioritized way that need to be addressed for each building? Is that the goal, to come up with a punch list, essentially?
And the scope is being put together now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Demers?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Galvin, I know that over the weekend, you and I were tagged into a post on Facebook regarding accessibility to playgrounds across the community. I hope in your future capital plans that we can take a broad range look at that, making it part of the standards of something that we look at when we do those playground renovations or reconstructing playgrounds.
Well, I'm glad you did bring that up, Alderman. There is an appropriation in here for $35,000. That's to update the city's needs assessment. We have a handicap commission on board that's very excited about their job, and they'll do this citywide needs in a collaborative manner with recreation, DPW. It'll cover streets and
Sure.
public buildings and parks. So
I think that's a great move in the right direction, so that we're
in
addressing
addition to the
concerns.
$35,000, there's a grant funding that will supplement that.
Okay,
And we're working on the grant that's due just October 1st. So
great, excellent to hear.
There's great strides being made.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Dillon?
Just on that same point regarding the disabilities, the handicap for the playgrounds, on the Harold Wyman, we've made it very clear. We reached out to the Disabilities Commission, per Mayor Galvin's request, made sure that was a main topic so that any new playgrounds coming up, that would be one of the big things to make sure it hits. Just to close on that.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if we adopt the order tonight, does that have to be by roll call? I think most budgetary things have to, or is this one not required to?
Nope, I spoke with the city solicitor today about it.
Okay, perfect. Is there a motion that the order be adopted?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Make a motion to return to the regular order of business?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have an order that the city council authorized the mayor to accept land on behalf of the city for drainage and access easements. Is there a motion that this be referred to the Committee on Infrastructure and Public Lands?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have a communication from the mayor relative to the New Boston Street Bridge for an order of taking. Would you like to speak on that, Mr. Mayor, or save it for committee? Okay. Is there a motion that the order be sent off to the Committee on Infrastructure and... Madam Clerk?
You can either lay it on the
Lay it-
table.
or lay it
There's
on-
gonna be a special meeting on September 1st to deal with the final version of this.
Yeah.
So you can either lay it on the table, or, but you can send it to committee, and you can have a committee meeting on it beforehand, too.
Let's just lay it on the table. Is there a motion and a second that the communication be received and made part of the permanent record and that the matter be laid on the table?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, under new petitions, we have a special event permit from the North Suburban YMCA for a annual 5K road race at Hon Pond and area streets on October 24th, 2021. Is there a motion and a second that the special event permit be granted?
Motion.
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries. Is there a similar motion on a special event permit by the New England Orienteering Club, Inc. for a map and compass sport orienteering event at Hon Pond on August 29, 2021?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Same motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 new petitions that need to be referred to a public hearing. One is from Murphy's Waste Oil Services, Inc. for a new flammable license. Another from King of Cool, Inc. for a special permit to operate a full-service restaurant. Another from Toll Brothers to amend a prior special permit dated June 6, 2017. And another one by 304 Cambridge Road to amend Section 5 notes to Table of Use Regulations and Section 5.1 Table of Use Regulations, Note 26. Is there a motion and a second that these be referred to a public hearing?
I make that motion.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And on the one by 304 Cambridge Road LLC, is there a motion to forward this to the city solicitor as well?
So moved.
So moved.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have a communication dated August 4th, 2021 from Attorney Tyree relative to a minor modification for a special permit for Woburn Foreign Motors, 394R Washington Street. Is there a motion and a second that the communication be made part of the permanent record?
So moved.
So moved.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion and a second to suspend the rules to allow Attorney Tyree to speak?
So moved.
Make that
All is in
motion.
favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney Tyree, you have the floor.
Yeah, for the record, Attorney Joseph Tabby, Reuben and Redmond, 600 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, here on behalf of Woburn Foreign Motors. We filed a request, for a modification to the special permit that was last granted to Woburn Foreign Motors for the expansion of their facility. We included a summary of those proposed changes, the communication from Tim Williams of Allen Major. And Tim is here if you'd like to see the plan, but the summary of the changes are that the internal car wash that was shown on the original plan, I'm going to refer to it as the back building. It's the small building behind the dealership building. They're going to eliminate the automatic car wash. They've been washing vehicles by hand. It's more efficient, it's better for the environment, and the wash jobs come out a lot better than putting it through the automated car wash, which they haven't installed. And until such time as the special permit is modified, Tom Gwynn indicated he could not issue a final CO. And then there's reconfiguration of some of the parking that's around the face of that building. There's an incorporation of an ADA accessible sidewalk. There were guardrails along the face of the building. Those have been removed, or proposed to be removed. And then there was a vehicle display raised platform in that building that had a vehicle for sale for display. And then there were 56 storage spaces within the building for some of the vehicles. I don't know if you've driven by dealerships lately, but I'm sure Mr. Lanning can attest to this, but the parking lots are, not as full as they used to be. And the last item is the improvements to the exterior of the back building. They're going to put a new facade on it that'll be consistent with the building in front. So that's a summary of the proposed modifications. We do have a plan we can throw up on the screen if you wish, if you'd like us to go over them in a little more detail.
Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Just a quick question, Attorney Tarby. The improvements to the other building, you said they will be consistent with the design that's already there, because it's quite nice.
Yeah, I'm going to...
Okay, because I haven't had a chance to
Quick, Rich?
look at the plan, and
Yes, okay, I just wanted to confirm
Okay.
that, yep.
I don't take exception to any of these minor modifications. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Alderman Gately.
They've done a good business over there. They're clean. They're a good bunch of people. If you have a problem with the vehicle you bought, I've got reports. They take care of it right away. It's always been a good outfit, and I got no problem with all these minor modifications that these gentlemen are doing right now, especially the reduction in the parking space for the storage of cars. That's part of the times, I support it for tonight. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to return to the regular order?
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion and a second that the minor modification be granted and that all previous conditions remain in full force and effect unless otherwise modified herein?
So
Make that
moved.
motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, under public hearings, we have a petition by ND Properties LLC to amend the Woburn zoning ordinance as amended and be further amended as follows. Amend Section 25 Upper Main Street Overlay District as follows. 1. Section 25F.3 shall be amended by deleting 57 on the last line of the paragraph and replacing with 20 units per acre. A communication was received from Attorney Tarby. Is there a motion that the communication be received and made part of the permanent record?
I make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and we, just for the record, we have yet to receive the planning board comment memo from the planning board meeting, so we cannot take action on that until, on this petition, until we receive that letter. With that being said, Attorney
President
Tarby, you have the
Tesco?
floor.
President Tesco,
Yep.
I believe I have, just one moment. I have an update. Tina Cassidy, the planning director, sent myself, President Tedesco, and Attorney Tabi an email tonight with an update. Did you want me to read that for the record?
Please.
Dated tonight. Good afternoon to you both. I want to let you know that I want to let you and the council know that the planning board has completed its public hearing on the petition, and I will be filing its letter of recommendation to you by the end of this week. I know the council's hearing starts this evening, so I had hoped to get the report to you today. Unfortunately, too many things intervened and made it impossible, and some of the intervening things were on fire, no less. Thanks in advance for your patience and understanding.
Thank you, Clerk Higgins. Attorney Tarby, you have the floor.
Okay, yes, for the record, Joseph Tabby, Reuben and Redmond, 600 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn. Here on behalf of ND Properties, with me this evening is Dennis Clare and Nelson de Oliveira, who are the proposed purchasers and developers of the property. Also with me this evening is Peter Durning, Attorney Peter Durning of Mackey, Shea, and Durning, who's an environmental attorney who's worked on this site for a number of years and will provide you, when I'm done with my history of the property, to give you an environmental status of the property. So, when we present these zoning amendments, we're supposed to be presenting the zoning amendment itself. However, inevitable, the proposed project always, there are questions about a proposed project, which is really not on the table this evening, in that this is a request to modify the zoning, but we'll touch upon the project, proposed project, and provide you more detail when this gets to committee. So I think it's important, and I did file a memorandum so that you'd have it for future reference after this hearing, that you understand the history of the property. So going back to 1992, the alderman at that time, Richard Corsetti, termed the property at 1071 Main Street the worst looking piece of property along Main Street from the Winchester line to the Wilmington line. At that time, Alderman Corsetti had received a petition from abutters in the area requesting that the property be cleaned up. In 1999, the former Ward 6 Alderman Hank Galanti filed a rezoning amendment and requested that the property, which consists of approximately 4.92 acres, be rezoned from R2 to R3. The rezoning amendment was approved with back-to-back public hearings by the Planning Board and City Council in 2 consecutive weeks. At the time, local developer Scott Seva had the property under agreement, and that allowed him to proceed forward to file a special permit with the City Council seeking approval of 68, at the time, townhouse units, which were allowed under the residential 3 zoning district. However, Anthony Santullo, who owned the property across the street at 1042 Main Street, appealed the approval of the zoning amendment to the Massachusetts Land Court, and then subsequently to the Massachusetts Appeals Court. The city of Woburn was successful in defending the rezoning of the property. However, during the appeal process, the zoning had changed. There was a reduction in the number of units that were allowed under the R3 zoning district, so that at the time would have allowed only for 41 units. Mr. Seaver subsequently filed a variance petition in 2004 with the Board of Appeals, and with the strong support of the neighbors and then Alderman John Ciarello, the Board of Appeals granted a variance allowing for 57 residential units. Then again, Mr. Santullo appealed that decision to Superior Court, and the matter was subsequently settled. So we move to April of 2009, when the Board of Appeals issued an amended and restated decision. So with variance decisions, unlike special permits that can be extended for 2 years and extended for 2 years more, and on, a variance decision is only good for 1 year, and it's subject to 1 6-month extension. Beyond that, it can't be further extended. So after the 1 year and a 6-month extension, the development had not started, because at the time of the economic conditions at that time, so the variance decision appealed. So after working with the neighbors in the area in Ward 6, Alderman Mike Raymond at the time, in March of 2010, the overlay district was filed and adopted so that Mr. Seaver could do the 57 units that the Board of Appeals allowed him to do. So then he subsequently, in January of 2014, obtained a special permit from the City Council allowing for the 57 units, and then that permit expired on January 9th of 2016. So that's the history of all the permitting on the property. Now, the property itself, has a long history of commercial and industrial uses going back to the 1920s. It was used for a number of different commercial, industrial activities, including tanning, auto repair, various warehouse and storage, construction, rubbish, and disposal operations. The property, as you know, is located in a primarily suburban residential area, and today undeveloped, and contains several mixed soil and debris stockpiles on the site, with environmental assessments starting in 2004. As a result of the environmental condition of the property, Mr. Seaver terminated his agreement with the then property owner, Mr. Rockentenitz, who recently passed away. And my clients have entered into an agreement to purchase the property and would like to construct an approximately 107,184 square foot apartment building that would have all 1 and 2 bedroom units, with four stories of residential units, with 1 story of parking at ground level underneath the building. The proposed lot coverage would be 13.33%. By comparison, the project approved in 2014 had lot coverage of 11.56% and had 4 floors of residential units and was approximately 90,000 square feet. The plans that my clients have worked on show the building in the same general area, pretty much follows the same footprint as Mr. Seaver's proposal was at the time, with the parking being surface parking and then some private garages. So at this point, what I'd like to do is introduce Peter Durning, who can provide you with an update on the environmental status of the property. And at the planning board public hearing, there was some questions concerning the cost of the cleanup of the site, and he can clarify those as well. So, Peter?
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to the council for hearing me today. My name is Peter Durning. I'm an attorney at Mackey Shea Durning at 20 Park Plaza in Boston, and I've been working with Attorney Tarby and with ND Properties on the complex environmental issues at play on this site, and involving the negotiation of the purchase and sale agreement that has considerable measures to address how the environmental condition is going to be handled, but also an active communication and negotiation with federal EPA and the State Department of Environmental Protection. Both of those agencies, EPA and DEP, have been involved in this property for a while. There are federally regulated contaminants on the property, particularly PCBs, which fall under the EPA's purview. And so they've been monitoring the site, and they became somewhat frustrated by the lack of progress and cleanup on the site. And in October of 2019, EPA took the additional step of drafting an action memo for steps that EPA would take to begin some active remediation on the site. And that included securing some of the property on 1071 and also performing a rather extensive remediation on the neighboring residential property, 1073 Main Street. That action memo calculated the cost for EPA's activities at around $1.2 million. But what's important to understand and appreciate was that that work was only going to be to secure certain exposed soil stockpiles, perform the work at 1073 Main Street, and otherwise, in their language, stabilize the stockpiles. But after that limited action that they were going to perform, the management of the site would return to EPA for additional investigation and cleanup required to achieve site closure under the MCP, or the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, which is our regulation, state regulations 310 CMR 40, which governs environmental cleanups. In contrast to the EPA's scope of work, the scope of work that ND Properties has proposed and committed to is a full remediation, the achievement of a permanent solution under the state's MCP, which is considerably much more cleanup than EPA was contemplating in its action memo. Working with their technical consultants at Weston and Sampson, who recently performed additional site investigations, they project the cost of the cleanup that ND Properties would be bound to achieve at between $4.3 and $5.1 million. That is just the cost of the cleanup. That is before any beneficial use of the property is achieved. And in part through the negotiation of the purchase and sale agreement, and also in active negotiations with EPA and DEP, we have established that ND Properties would commit to achieving that level. But in order to do so, to finance that scope of work, which is really just the betterment of the property through the achievement of that remediation, financing that, the debt service on that would be very difficult for them to even achieve without knowing that they would be able to get a beneficial project that would float the cost of that debt service. And that's why, working with Attorney Tarby, we recommend this amendment, because it will allow this developer, which I would note in the long history that Mr. Tarby just recited, is the only entity coming forward ready and willing to put up the money that would be required to get this property to that level of cleanup, again, which would be a permanent solution under the Massachusetts Contingency Plan. And so that's a considerable betterment for the property. And I'll turn it back to Joe unless there were any specific questions about the environmental concerns on the property at this time.
Alderman Concanon?
Just a quick question, sir. Did the EPA confirm that estimated amount of money for a full cleanup?
Thank you for that question. The EPA, particularly one individual there, Kim Tiza, who's in charge of the TSCA program, will have review and oversight of this plan. It has been submitted to them. The estimate has been shared with them. They haven't necessarily given it their stamp of approval, but they are aware of the work that's being done. And Weston & Sampson has had dialogue with both EPA and DEP about the scope of the additional site investigation work that they performed quite recently and got their feedback as to here's where we're going to take samples and this is the kind of information we're going to get. So that communication has been ongoing. The other thing I would add is that as EPA stresses in its action memo, the state has not had the funds to perform this cleanup, which is one of the reasons that EPA has stepped in. Even though the purchase and sale agreement has not closed and ND Properties does not have any possessory interest in the land right now, it has been funding some of the government's work that the government had been performing at the site, particularly securing the stockpiles, paying for the removal of one, and paying for the addition of chemical binding agents. So the ND Properties has been active in that regard. So no formal approval, but they're very well aware of the scope of the plans and the scope of the remediation.
Obviously, the reason I ask is what's being asked here is a change in what it would be allowed. And the argument is that it's necessary to be able to afford the cleanup.
Yes.
So we have to make a determination of what the actual cost of the cleanup would likely be. You've offered a range of 4.3 to 5.1 million. It would be nice if we could be sure that's what it would cost. Then we can make an assessment as to whether it's worth it to allow the change to fund the cleanup.
Thank you, Mr. Concanon. And just pulling up the report from Weston Sampson, I can clarify if I misspoke before. The cost range is 4.5 to 5.3 million, just to correct myself on the record there. But yes, that information has been shared with both EPA and DEP. Again, they haven't necessarily put their stamp of approval on it, but in general, in Massachusetts, we generally have a privatized cleanup system wherein private parties are encouraged to perform cleanups. They do so to the standards that are set in the regulations in the MCP, and then that is reviewed by EPA, or in that case, in DEP, to confirm that you have, in fact, reached that level of sufficient cleanup. So I'm confident in those numbers that would be required to get to that level.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Gately?
The history of that land, Dolly and I were still on, I think we're the only two left on the council from that, and when we okayed that, and Mike Raymond,
I didn't vote for it.
they were told not to play around with that land, right? To stay in a certain footprint that we wanted them to stay into, and Shiva didn't stay there. He went farther away from the footprint, which caused this problem with all the stuff coming out of the ground. Should this be a brownfield situation for all the contamination that's in that land?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by should this be a brownfield. I think it could very well be considered a brownfield right now.
Should be, yeah.
But it is not so significant in size or scope that it would fall under the federal Superfund program and have the federal government just come in and clean it up. They've been clearly, the record is that they've been reluctant to do that. So I don't think it's a site that the government has expressed the willingness to completely take over and perform the remediation that would really benefit the community.
Well, I see that, you got a good bunch of neighbors up there that've gone through a lot with that development up there that never was. The concrete, catch basins and pipe and everything else they had up there for years when they got stopped from working. But I cannot see for the life of me how the people who bought that land, how the people who own that land are walking away from that land paying nothing. That was their land. That was Rockatana's land. He was my uncle's cousin or something. And they did all this stuff. They knew what they were doing. You know, with the cars and the rubbish and the garbage and the stuff that they were doing, you know, for years and years and years. And all of a sudden they can walk away with the government picking up the tab. And then these guys get a chance to come in and buy it and put all kinds of apartments up there, which I don't know how that's gonna work out, but,
So, Alderman, I don't dispute any of that history. I think it's accurate. What I can tell you is from our involvement in this project, while we were negotiating with the seller, EPA was negotiating with them as well. And EPA conducted an investigation and determined that the current record seller, the Benval Realty Trust, had what they determined to be an inability to pay, had an inability to finance the remediation that would be required. But in addition to that, both EPA and DEP have put liens on the property such that when any sale of the property goes through, certain amounts of that purchase price is going to go to satisfy some of the debts that both EPA and DEP have incurred.
that's what I was looking for, all right? That they weren't gonna walk away and put all the money, spend all the money, government spent all the money, DEP, whatever, to clean that site up, and they're gonna walk away with a fistful of hundreds. It's not gonna happen that way, and that's a good way.
No, both liens are recorded. Already DEP and EPA have recorded their liens, and they've also, I believe, they've entered into an agreement with the Benval Realty Trust on how the limited distribution of the monies that will come in from the sale of the property will be handled. Some portion are going to prior contractors for the owner, and others are going to the government.
And what goes in there for the development of that, when it finally happens, hopefully a lot of that development pertain to the neighbors. They're going through a lot. And to make sure that the landscape and everything is good. I'm just hoping that all the water coming off the hill from Snake Hill across the street don't end up in that lap down there. That's kind of a low area down there too. So that's something we have to take a look at. And all these people know what I'm talking about, all right? Okay. I'm good.
Understood.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Alderman Dillon?
Yes, for the expert, this may not be a fair question, but I'll put it out there anyways. We have really two options here. The developer comes in, cleans it up, and builds it. Or wait for the EPA to come in and clean it up. Is that not?
So, in theory, Mr. Dillon, I suppose one could wait for that, but based on the limited action that EPA has authorized to take, they are expressly not cleaning up the site. The only work that's been authorized from 2019 is really just securing the site, securing some of the exposed stockpiles, but it is not achieving the level of remediation that would satisfy the state regulations, for example. So I think the record and history of this site, as Mr. Tarby mentioned, going back to 1992, would really be more inaction than affirmative action to remediate this property.
So just take it a little further. You don't see the EPA coming in 5 years, 10 years, and I know you don't have a crystal ball here.
Right.
But based on your expert in the past, similar developments, you don't see them coming in anytime soon to clean this up.
Thank you for the question. I do not, and I think the record of this matter speaks to that.
Thank you.
Alderman Campbell?
I just have one question, and this is for Joe. How many apartments, Joe, are they looking to put in?
Well, at the 20 units per acre, that would equal 89 units.
Thank you.
Alderman Mercer Bruin?
Does the property pose an immediate safety concern to the neighbors right now, or to the city?
The way that it's secured and that access is limited, I don't think it presents an immediate risk. I think that the work that EPA did at 1073 was very necessary and appropriate that they did. We don't have any information indicating that the contaminants of concern are migrating off the site. They're not traveling in groundwater to other neighboring properties.
I would think the EPA would be up to speed on that. They're pretty good at that stuff.
If that was a concern, it would be greater. More what we have is PCBs that are sitting in soil and they're staying there, but they're not migrating in groundwater. So it's not an immediate concern to the abutting properties that the contaminants are flowing to them. The contaminants are, for the time being, staying where they are, and because of the periodic application of this encapsulant to bind the soil so they're not, soils are not being moved by wind or air, it's fairly well contained at this time, but it could certainly be improved.
Right. Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Any other further comments from Attorney Tarby or Attorney Durney?
No, I think we're good. Alderman Concanon, set out what the issue is, the cost of cleanup of the site, and how many units are going to take to clean it up, so.
All right. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Make that motion.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by ND Realty Trust? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. As most of you know, my name is Mike Raymond. I am the chairman of the Woburn Neighborhood Association, a grant-funded and duly registered environmental education service incorporated in 2002. For the past 52 years, I've resided at 10 North Maple Street, and I am a direct abutter or a chip shot away from the Upper Main Street property. Please carefully consider the zoning change and how it will affect the residents of North Woburn. We, the Woburn Neighborhood Association, are opposed to the proposed zoning change to the maximum residential density from 57 units to 20 units per acre in the UMS overlay district for the following reasons. First and foremost, the original intent of the UMS district was to clean up an eyesore that had plagued North Woburn residents for 75 years. And I'm not going to go through the complete list of everything that was done all the way back to 1890. After 3 years of negotiation with input from the neighbors, the developer, and the city officials, the UMS district was unanimously approved by the city council. We believe that the additional units proposed in the zoning change will suffocate the neighborhood and create a long-term detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. Directly across the street from the UMS property is a 168-unit ledges project that the neighborhood had shoved down their throat. Now, if you look around the chambers tonight, you're going to see a lot of people here. There should have been 3 or 4 times the amount of people here for the amount of flyers that we handed out. But we walked around and we spoke to the people, and they're disgusted. After having that shoved down their throats, now they're going to have another project shoved down their throats right in the neighborhood. 10 years ago, the Upper Main Street overlay project was the only option we had to get the property cleaned up. In fact,
when the special permit was issued, Alderman Gately put a condition in that demolition would be complete before any started. So, for the past 5 or 6 years, it looked like an empty lot. It's contaminated, but it looked like an empty lot. When is enough enough? There are currently 9 or recent projects totaling 2,140 units between Ward 5 and Ward 6 in our neighborhood, with more going up every day. We spent years working on the new Boston Street project to get the bridge approved. And what did they do? They're gonna build 700 units, 400 on one side and 300 on the other, and strangle that whole area. And it almost destroys the usefulness of the bridge, or what we originally intended the bridge for. I'm not gonna get away, I'm just using that as a small example. Prior to the addition of section 5.2.1.5, Planning Board meeting Director Cassidy stated that she, along with Alderman Anderson, met with City Solicitor Doucette on April 6, 2018, and April 12th. City Solicitor stated that it would not apply to the Upper Main Street. She didn't give a reason, or there was no reason in the notes on why it should apply. Now, there's been some mention by the attorneys tonight on a memo that was handed out. And basically, it's a work order of what was going to be done on 1071 and 1073.
Is there a motion to accept and make part of the permanent record?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mike, could you just wait till,
One for you.
Mike, could you just wait till Lindsay comes back and then you can start speaking again?
Excuse me?
Just wait till Lindsay comes back and then you can start speaking so she can
Oh,
write it
okay.
down in the minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't intend on coming back.
Thank you.
Now, I'm just going to take a minute or two to explain what this is and my interpretation of the memo that was issued by the EPA. But on the front cover, you're going to see where the Ledgers project is, where 1071 Main Street is, and where my house is. So you'll see how close I am to the property itself. Now, going through, okay. Now, the cleanup, what they were planning on doing for both 1071 and 1073 is on page 12 and 13. And on page 16, you'll see that their estimate for their work was around 1.1 to 1.4 million. From 8/23/21, and I had 4.5 to 5.3. Okay, now, right after it is a memo issued, are a couple of pictures. Starting, and I put the pictures in so you'd see what the property actually looked like before we started demolition. On page 1, you'll see that's a building with a tree coming right through the building. And when you drove down Main Street, that's exactly what you saw. The bottom 2 pictures are what the EPA found during their initial investigation of the property. The next set of pictures, again, is 1071, first one. Now, the second picture is 1071 Main Street, street view today. Of course, those weeds that are protruding through the fence are gone because I contacted the DEP and they took all the weeds out. So, I mean, the kids can walk now. The bottom 2 pictures are 1073, complete what they did. You could see it before and you could see it after. It's all nice grass with a fence around and you know, you really did a nice job. Now, there's an update from the EPA in June 2020. That's the next thing in the folder, or the last thing in the folder. And the update, basically what I wanted to point out on the back was future work on the property. It said that they were almost complete with the property. They were ready to turn it back to, ready to turn it back and say it's done. Now, there's a couple of things that are popping up right now that are not really, they're pertinent, but yet they're not. In the email that I received from President Tedesco, the building size is really in question, because the memo that I received had 24,600 feet for 89 units with whole floor underground garage, whereas the original plan had 79,400 feet for 57 units with no underground garage. Now that's important because the underground garage, everybody knows, adds almost a full floor to the height of the building. When this building and the whole Upper Main Street overlay was put together, the building itself would, and you have to see the property because it's hard to explain, it's down in a valley. And to the right of the property is a mountain. The mountain is approximately 80 feet. So if you put the smaller building in, that's only a 42-foot building. So they wouldn't lose their line of sight from the top of the thing. But if you put a 70-foot building in, that's with the garage and with everything, underneath, then they're gonna lose their line of sight. That's the people up on the hill. I just got one more thing and then I'll be done. I want to talk a little bit about Brownsfield, because Brownsfield designation is, when it was proposed in 1999, it wasn't as popular as it is today. But in 1999, the federal government got together and they said, listen, and the EPA got together and said, look, we got to do something to clean up these eyesores. We have to give them some kind of advantage to eyesores. So they went around, did all kinds of surveys and everything, every city and town. Massachusetts has 1,250 sites on the register. Of the 1,250 sites, I want to make sure I get this right, there are 5 sites in Woburn. Of the 5 sites in Woburn, one is 1071 Main Street. Now, why is that important? Well, Brownsfield is a special designation issued for really bad property. So when it was listed as really, really bad property or abandoned property or just bad property, it opened up anybody going in, whether it be private contractors, whether it be cities, can develop the property. But the day they take ownership, that's the day they're responsible for any contamination forward. They're not responsible for any contamination back. Although the developers are saying they're going to spend 4.5 to 5, I don't understand why. I don't understand why they're spending the money. The money should be coming out of the previous owner should be taking care of it. But the loophole in the law is that if you file a form with the state of Massachusetts saying that you financially can't do it, and the state approves it, then the DEP takes over. And the DEP assigned this to their Brownsfield section of the DEP, coincidentally. When the project got too big for them and they couldn't handle it, they had to call on the EPA. And the EPA, the first thing the EPA does is they look for a citizens group. And they notify, that's why I brought up the Woburn Neighborhood Association and not just me. Because for the past couple of years, we've been the communication link between the EPA and the residents. In fact, when I showed you that memo that was given out in June, they called us and they said, can you help us with the memo? Because we can't get anybody to deliver the memos because of the COVID. I said, no problem, send it to us, we'll take care of it. because most of our residents are on our site, our site that we could get a hold of them. I ran into a lot of problems over the past couple of weeks meeting the new residents of North Woburn. Now, I haven't walked the wards in a couple of years, but I walked them, you know why, to hand out the flyers. And I'm handing out the flyers, and I notice there's a lot of new people in the ward. And the new people are saying, I don't see anything wrong with that property. How can they build an 80 without realizing what the property was like? And we've had comments, how could you approve something like that? You know, without spending an hour and a half going through with them and saying, look, it was bad, it was this, it was that. I showed them pictures, I put pictures on the website and everything. But still there's that animal, and it's really, again, I'm feeling against the government that, you know, what are you doing? Well, what is this hearing about? Well, it's to make sure that they don't increase it over 57 units. 57 units, who approved that? That type of conversation we've been having. One other concern that came up, and it really hasn't been advertised enough, that when you changed the threshold from 10 to 15% on any new projects for affordable housing, this was probably the most important piece of legislation you've done, because what happened after the 2020 census, you know, even though they raised the threshold to 10%, Woburn is at 10.5. And Woburn will continue to be at 10.5 as long as you guys on every project hold to the 15%. You know, and it'll pick it up. So that was very important. And they were worried, and the reason I'm bringing up the 40B, they said, look, if we don't approve it, what's going to happen? Are they going to turn it into another 40B? Are they going to put 6 or 7 buildings in there, and, you know, and no parking, and parking on the main street? I said, no. Listen, 40B right now is not a concern. The only people that should be concerned with the 40B are the people in the city council as they approve new projects. And that explained that. But there's not enough people out there that know that. So, you know, I mean, our people know it now. At least North Woburn knows what it is. Thank you for allowing me to comment. I used up my 5 minutes, all right? Any questions?
Any questions from the council for Mr. Raymond?
Thanks, Mike. Did a good job.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for
Thank you.
being so thorough.
Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by ND Properties? Just please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Deb Harley. I'm at 4 Wheeling Street in North Woburn.
I'm sorry, what was your address again?
4 Wheeling Street.
Thank you.
I submitted a letter to the planning board, and I just want to share some of the thoughts with you. We've been there about 40 years. The general allowance of 20 units per acre, it just seems broad, as opposed to, you know, you should, how many, you know, things are a lot bigger. Everything's bigger these days. For instance, I live behind the Middlesex Village condos, 1001 and 1011 Main Street. Those are 36 modest units. I'll try to keep up here. They're, you know, approximately 700 square feet. It's 2.5, 3 acres. It's about 14 units per acre. And this is an older development, probably apartments that were turned into condos. But if you go from CVS north, there's nothing over 3 stories right now. You go to 924, 949, 980, 985, those buildings near the Alta Vista School, et cetera, and down the street. Even the newer Newbridge Village down at 855 Main Street near the Stop and Shop is 91 units on 6 acres, and that's still yielding 15 units per acre. And it is more dense because they're bigger townhouses, apartments, et cetera. They're not the old modest units. So this increase of 30 units may not seem like a lot relative to the hundreds, as Mike indicates, thousands that are being in development throughout the city, but they mean a lot to us. It's just, we're living with the quarry And it is insane. You understand why we have apprehension as to what they're telling us, because they said, oh, you let us grind there, we'll be done in 2 years. Okay, we're well beyond 2 years, and we're up every morning at 7 o'clock with the beep, beep, beep. Okay, we're done with that. But I will say, if they want an extra 30 units, and they're talking $5 million, which is probably their high number, because they want to make sure they're covered, with the rate that condos are going right now, that's 10. 10 units will cover that, right? And unless I get my math wrong. So I just want to throw that out there. It's just too much. It's just too much. So I hope you'll consider all that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who would wish to be heard on the petition by ND Properties? Just come forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Diana Tenzio. I reside at 23 Milan Ave in North Woburn. I've lived there for over 50 years. I'm concerned about the extra units putting in there because it's too much on our schools and everything else. Is there any mitigation that they're going to do for having these units there?
We haven't got.
Present mitigation?
That wouldn't come until the special permit when they do. This is just for the zoning change, so we don't have any information on that.
But to put those other units, I think, is too much for the schools. The Alta Vista, I don't know where they're going to be putting these kids, or the Kennedy, or any of the schools. There's way too many apartments already. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who wishes to be heard on the petition by ND Properties? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Attorney Tarby and Attorney, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to clarify one issue on the, and again, we're here for a zoning amendment, but I heard that the buildings are going to be 70 feet high. The building is proposed at 52 feet 6 inches and would sit a little below or even with Main Street, consistent with the Seaver building. And I'm going to let Peter clarify some of the environmental.
Thank you, Mr. Tarby. I was just, Mr. Concanon, I had one more response for you that I thought of when I sat down. You were asking about whether that value or the work would be reviewed and approved by the regulators. And whereas I said in the state process, generally, it's a privatized system. However, because of the presence of PCBs on this site and the involvement of EPA, any work plan that the project proponent comes forward with is going to have to be reviewed and approved by EPA, which is a slight difference than many cleanups that happen in the Commonwealth without EPA involvement. Again, whereas they're not necessarily stamping the valuation, they do have review and oversight over that work, and that is a check on the quality that would occur there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on the petition by ND Properties? Please just come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Alderman Mercer-Bruin.
Wanted to make a quick comment. I know we have a lot of information to review during special permits. We have to hear from the planning board. But I heard a couple of things tonight about 40B, and I just want to make sure we clarify that for the people at home and the people in the audience. So the Ledges project was very, very unfortunate, right? And that was a 40B. And originally, I think that started out as a proposal for several single-family homes. And it was rejected. And by the city, it was rejected by the city. And we spent the better part of 12 years, I think, in court, fighting it to the tune of well over $1 million. I bring that up because it was mentioned that Woburn is at our 40B housing stock. We may be today, but it is by design at the state a moving target every single day. I'm not saying that to suggest we need to approve this petition. I'm saying it because this council does need to be vigilant because it is a moving target. So we have to continue to keep that in mind. And I'm not quite sure we are at 10.5%. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that the law is not on our side. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to reiterate what Alderman Mercer-Bruin said at the beginning, we haven't officially received the recommendation of the planning board, so we cannot act tonight. We have to wait till we actually receive the letter, but they did vote to not recommend adoption. Just wanted to put that out on the record this evening. With that being said, can I get a motion to send this off to the Committee on Ordinance, Charter, and Rules and continue this to our first meeting in September?
So moved.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This has been continued to our first meeting in September, which is September 7th. Thank you. Next, we have a petition by 120 Commerce Apartments LLC for a new inflammable license to allow 13,000 gallons of gasoline and vehicle tanks parked in the parking garage at 120 Commerce Way. I don't see Attorney Salvati here. I think he's out in the hallway. Yeah, could you? Yeah, you want to go and let him tell him we're ready for him?
Was floating around.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw him in the rotunda.
There he is.
Oh, here he comes. Is there a motion that any communications be received and made part of the permanent record?
Up here.
They're up.
I didn't think they were done so.
There was a motion. Was there a second on that motion to?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney Salvati, you have the floor.
Thank you. Attorney Mark Salvati, 57 Arlington Road in Woburn, for the petitioner. This is 120 Commerce Way. I'm really just here as a figurehead to answer any questions. I really wasn't involved in the filing, but I'd be glad to answer any questions if I can. So it's, I think it's mainly for all the vehicles that are in the building.
Alderman Gately, and then,
Now, you made out your permission from the fire department
Correct.
to have that in there?
Yep.
Uh,
I believe it's in there, yep.
And specifically, what do you have? You got gas, you get propane, you have gas, you got propane? What else you got in there?
That's it, I believe, just gas and propane. It's the gas is in the cars from the
Gas
parking
in the
lot.
car, yeah, we've done this before.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
what's the propane for?
I don't know that answer, to be honest with you, Alderman.
I believe, Alderman Gately, this has nothing to do with propane. This is just gas for the vehicles in the cars.
Okay. And we'll allow 13,000. There's no propane in there.
I guess
It's
not.
all gasoline.
Stand corrected.
I got no issue with it as long as the fire department. has
Alderman
done something.
Mercer-Bruin?
I concur with Alderman Gately, as long as the fire department's on board. I have no issue moving this forward tonight.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by 120 Commerce Apartments LLC for an inflammable license? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, is there a motion to close the
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to grant the inflammable license?
So moved.
Make it so.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a petition, or rather, I guess, the intention of the city council to lay out the reconstructed and widened Hill Street as a public way in the city of Woburn, as shown on the plan of land entitled Hill Street Plan and Profile dated June 3rd, 2021. Is there a motion and a second that any and all communications be received and made part of the permanent record?
So moved.
Make it
Second.
so.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, for the record, Joseph Tabby, Woburn Redmond, 600 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, here on behalf of Montfield Land LLC, the owner of the property known as the Vale. So back on October 1st of 2020, Alderman Gately, as chairman of the Infrastructure and Public Lands Committee, filed an order pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 82, Section 21, and Section 12(5)A and B of the Woburn Municipal Code, requesting the layout of a reconstructed and widened Hill Street on October 1st of 2020. As required by statute in the Woburn Municipal Code, the petition, the order gets introduced, the petition gets referred to the Committee on Infrastructure and Public Lands for review. In addition, the petition is filed with the Planning Board for their review and report. On October 27th of 2020, the Planning Board reviewed the plan, had no objections or concerns with the notion of reconstructing and widening Hill Street, and made several suggestions which we followed up on. The next step in the process is to appear before the Committee on Infrastructure and Public Lands, which we did on November 23rd, 2020, and on April 6th of 2021. And we presented a plan entitled Hill Street Plan and Profile, Sheet C100 and Sheet C101, both dated September 16, 2020, revised April 22, and then subsequently revised June 3, 2021 for this hearing. Also in attendance at that meeting was City Engineer Jay Corey. After receiving Mr. Corey's input on a number of questions, there was a motion made by President Tedesco and seconded by Alderman Mercer Bruin that the order be sent back for action with the following condition, that a temporary stroll pedestrian/bicycle crossing light shall be installed at the intersection of Hill Street and the pedestrian bicycle path during the construction phase of the project, and that a permanent pedestrian bicycle crossing light shall be installed at the intersection of Hill Street and the pedestrian bicycle path upon completion of construction or occupancy of the first building, whichever comes first. That was unanimously sent back to the City Council, and the final step in the process is to hold this public hearing and to notify the 4 property owners along Hill Street, being Prime, gas station, McDonald's, the hotel property, and Mass DOT. So I guess unless you have any other questions, we'd ask you to move on the committee report and accept the plan as presented with the condition that had been proposed by Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Are there any questions for Attorney Tyree? And I'll just state for the record, I spoke with City Engineer Corey today, and he said this is ready to move tonight if the council wishes.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
No, it's already open, so we're good. All right. Thank you, Attorney Tyree.
Okay.
Is there anyone else here who wishes to be heard on the petition relative to accepting Hill Street as a public way? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one,
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
all is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion that we adopt the plan of record June 3rd, 2021, and to accept Hill Street as a public way, including the one condition that came out of the Committee on Infrastructure and Public Lands?
So moved.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a petition by Lightning Express for a special permit to park 8 vehicles overnight. A communication was received from the planning department. Is there a motion that this be received and made part of the permanent record? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney Salvati, you're not on this one? Oh. Ooh, thought it's... All right. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you for meeting with me, Council. Appreciate it, President. We're just here. We were notified by Thomas Quinn to come down for an overnight permit. And about 4 months ago, I started the process. Unfortunately, the management for the landlord was very ill and in and out of the hospital, which delayed everything. We do have a proposal for 8 overnight parking vehicles, permit for those vehicles, 4 of which to be parked in the back and 4 out front along the right side of the parking area. And that's basically all we're looking for.
Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Hello. Thank you for coming in. I know
you guys were operating down there for a while without this permit.
Yeah, we've been in business for 6.5 years.
Right,
now
and we
down there.
received, when we received complaints, and we did receive complaints, so here we are, so I'm glad that we're gonna get this right. So, I do have a list of conditions for your permit, and, the number of vehicles to be parked out back is 8. None are to be parked out front. That is one of the conditions. But could you tell me a little bit about I think that the vehicles that are gonna be parked there they're not vans, right?
No, they're straight trucks. They're 32 feet long.
32 feet long, okay. So would you like me, sir, to go through a list of the conditions as I reviewed them with the building commissioner?
Please.
Okay. The first condition would be that it's limited to 8 vehicles only, and they are to be parked in the back lot.
Okay.
All vehicles are to be registered within the city of Woburn. The hours of operation will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, no holidays. That's consistent with our current ordinances. No trailers are to be allowed stored on the property. As I stated before, the vehicles have to be parked out back, and you must maintain the buffer between your property or your leased property and the residential property. Do you understand what
Yes.
that means? Okay. The parking spaces are to be striped and maintained year-round. So in the winter, when things get beat up and you can't see the striping anymore, those have to be restriped. And the reason for that is because at any given point, the building commissioner needs to be able to verify and see that those spaces are available.
Okay.
The vehicles must be marked Lightning Express. I think they are already, but that will be a condition of this, what is essentially a contract with the city. There'll be no loading or unloading of trucks before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m. There's to be no outside storage of any materials. A professional road and control plan will be provided to the Board of Health quarterly. And keep in mind, sir, these conditions are very standard for what you're asking for in terms of vehicles. So the next one is that the dumpsters must be screened. It cannot be emptied before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m. The permit is going to be issued to Lightning Express and is not transferable. Do you understand what that means?
Yes.
Okay. The trucks are not permitted. In the city of Woburn, we have several areas where certain size trucks are not permitted to travel. There's probably 4 or 5 of them, and they have permits with the state. I'm gonna ask that this permit be conditioned that you will abide by those no trucking routes that are permitted by the state. They're clearly marked.
Yeah, that's standard.
Yeah. Have you completed a certified plot plan and issued it to Mr. Quinn as yet? Because the planning board was recommending that. So I'm going to ask
Yes.
if you've done that.
Yes, he has a
Do you
copy
have
of
one
it.
to submit to us tonight?
Yes, I do. But it's not marked with the parking spots on it, but this is the same one that he gave to the Thomas Quinn. if you'd like.
Okay. So could I make a motion to accept that to the city council? And what's the date on that,
Yeah,
sir?
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
If you could just, for the clerk, tell us what the date marked on the plan is.
September 4th, 1981.
Okay, and I had one, now, of course, my fellow counselors might have more, but the last condition I have is that along 215, there's a sidewalk that runs along Wood Street, not the Salem Street side, but the Wood Street side, that all of the brush from 215 is, once again, growing onto the sidewalk and making it very difficult for pedestrians to walk on the sidewalk. So as a condition of this permit, I'm going to ask that that sidewalk brush be cleared. I'm sure you can talk to your landlord about that.
Okay. I did have one question. Did you say that my operating hours would be changed and restricted?
What are your current, what are the current operating hours that you were doing illegally without a permit?
5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yes, your hours will change. They will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., which is in line with our zoning ordinances.
Hours of operation are in the zoning code, that's noise and dumpsters.
I did have a conversation with Tom Quinn about it earlier today, and he said this is, pretty standard. 5 a.m. is far too early for where you're located. There's a neighborhood right there.
Okay.
May I just have your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is Jerry Perrin.
Thank you.
Yep. Did you have another question?
Nope, I'm gonna,
I guess, is 7 to 7 workable?
No. It's not. I can't operate like that. Unfortunate.
Alderman Campbell?
Alderman Mercer Bruin, what were the complaints?
the number of trucks stacked on Salem Street and the level of the operation that was going on.
But it wasn't noise?
I did not get any specific noise complaints, no. So, having said that, I would be willing to adjust the hours with the understanding that if I do get noise complaints, the council will pull this permit in and readjust it and
Yep.
change the conditions.
We've been working really hard over the last 6 years to minimize any noise we have in the morning. A lot of times if we have work that has to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, we preload the trucks at night, lock them up, so it's just no noise at all, truck starting and leaving.
Okay, so we're on to something here then. As a condition, rather than changing the hours of operation, we'll have a condition that says in this permit that your trucks will be preloaded prior to 7 PM on a regular basis?
I would say no loading of trucks before 7 a.m. Keep it simple.
Okay, all right. And so you understand that if we do start to see, and I appreciate that you've tried to work hard to keep the noise down, but if we do see, and I do hear that there are complaints about the noise, the council does have a right to pull you in for special permit review and talk about changing those conditions. So I would ask you, I'm willing to let you keep the hours of operation because I personally have not had any complaints. I don't believe that for that. So I'm willing to do that if you're willing to keep doing what you've been doing to keep the noise down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Alderman Campbell?
On the same issue, I guess if we haven't had any complaints, you haven't had any complaints about noise, why do we need the no loading before 7 a.m.? It seems like it's going to strap his company and tie his hands.
Understand part of this is because there's a fairly new neighborhood over there, so, and that's not to say that there haven't been any complaints. I haven't received any complaints. So if my intention was to get this off the floor tonight, and I don't want those vehicles loaded before 7 a.m. That's just the responsible thing to do. But if it's going to cause a problem, we can send this to committee, not move it tonight, and I can have some more detailed conversations with Inspector Quinn to see if there are any outstanding noise complaints that I'm not aware of.
Alderman Mercer Bruin,
Hold on one second.
I still have the floor.
I'm taking it for a moment.
Oh, sure.
Do you have any issue with a condition that says no loading of trucks before 7 a.m.?
No, I would just say, we would work with you, just like we've been doing. We've been trying to keep the noise down and do preloads. We can continue to do that without a problem.
Okay.
I think the loading and anything you see in the morning before 7 a.m. is not my company. We only have 8 trucks on that property. There's about 40 of them there. I
Right,
know that there's a problem. There's a problem for me, and I'm on that site.
And I appreciate that you're here.
And with that, I'm going to turn it back to
Okay.
Alderman Campbell.
Okay, I
So
just
he's
want
all
to
good.
make sure that you don't, by us putting a condition saying that you cannot load before 7, that we're not tying your hands as a company. I just want to make sure that you can still do what you've been doing. Or is it starting an issue, a problem for you?
It's something that I can work with. I can work with. It'll be difficult, but I can work with that.
Okay,
You all set?
I'm all set, thank you.
Alderman Mercer Bruin?
So just for confirmation, the hours of operation, sir, that you're looking for within this permit are 5 AM to 7 PM?
5 AM to 9 PM, and no loading until 7 AM. I can do that. But we are open a little bit later than that. Our trucks are down the airport at night dropping off the freight that we have drayage on during the day.
I'll include it in here, and I'm going to ask that the council go through the conditions one by one. I'm not going to approve that, but I understand if the council wants to. I think it's too much for that area, but if we'll do them one by one, I'm satisfied
works.
with that.
Alderman Concanon?
I just ask a question, sir. What happens between 7 PM and 9 PM at your location?
There may be a trailer being unloaded, but most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, nothing.
So the loading that can't happen until 7 AM doesn't happen after 7 PM?
Correct. I can get that done during the day.
Thank you.
Alderman Dillon?
The trucks themselves, are they diesel or gasoline?
All the trucks are diesel trucks.
They are diesel.
They're all brand new.
Brand new, so relatively.
They're all nice, yeah.
Quiet
Not
compared to
quiet.
the diesel we think of years ago.
Yep,
Thank
very
you.
nice.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
One question.
Oh, Alderman Demers, yes.
So between the hours of 7 PM and 9 PM, the only activity that would be occurring at your place of business would be trucks returning?
2, possibly 3 trucks returning at night, just parking, and the employees just getting in their car and leaving.
All right, thank you.
Alderman Gately?
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
sorry what's going on here.
It's okay.
I know you've been down there for 6, 7 years. I just saw those one of your trucks the other day. Is that one of the new ones?
Yes,
That's a nice truck.
they are very
8
expensive,
of them?
too.
You got 8 of them?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Now, the ideas of the operation is basically for the people in the neighborhood. The Wood Street,
I understand.
it's got a whole line of people in there,
Right.
and once it goes back, you have building there. It starts again with the people for a while, you know? I don't think those hours of operation are that bad, as long as you keep the trucks from revving up, you
Yep.
know, the diesel. You've been a good outfit down there. I'd like to see you stay there.
I'd like to stay there.
Yeah, but, Darlene has a whole bunch of conditions. Most of them are pretty standard, the stuff we do.
It's okay.
The hours of operation have got to be addressed, because we will, as chairman of the Special Permits Committee, we take you in a heartbeat if we start getting problems down there.
Thank you.
We do it all the time.
Okay.
Right? So we'd like to keep you around. You're a hard-working guy. And you got a
Appreciate
good
that.
taste in trucks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions or comments from the council, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. If you just step aside for just a moment. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Lightning Express? Just come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Tina Perrin. My address, did you say?
Yeah.
7 Crescent Hill, Wakefield, Mass. I'm also one of the owners of Lightning Express. Just a couple things that my husband didn't mention is that,
Yeah, we can't hear you.
sorry, just a couple things that my husband didn't mention is that we've only been in Woburn for 6.5 years. We've been doing this for over 30 years, trucking, so we're not new to this. We try really hard in everywhere that we work to make sure that we are well around the community. We volunteer for softball, donate to all these kinds of things for them. We donate to the police department every year. It's like we're involved in the community trying to help out. So it's not just that, we're new here. And another thing you said, we're operating illegally. It was never our intention to operate illegally. We've been doing this for a long time. We've never had this situation. We pay our taxes and move in over $5,000 a year annually to have our trucks overnighted in Woburn. So this is all new to us. Why are we again having to pay another special overnight permit fee if I'm already paying over $5,000 to house my trucks here? So we're just finding out. We're just working with you guys trying to make this all work out. The other thing I wanted to address is the reason why we're having 4 trucks out back and 4 trucks out front is to minimize the trucks in the front and have them out back. We only rent a small portion of this large building, so we're only allowed to use the footprints in our portion. So by having 8 trucks out back, could be detrimental. I don't know if my landlord would approve that. So that's why we had 4. And we keep them on the far side where there's no housing, up against another business, and there's another business behind us. On this side of it, it's all the housing, which is, it's an enormous lot, like seriously, probably half a mile. So we keep them far away. We do that to make the noise minimum for them. When trucks come back, they park over here and they go. Sorry. So, I mean, 4 out back, 4 out front was just trying to keep it away from Salem Street. Like you said, there's no houses on Salem Street. It's all on Woodland Street. There's none on Hancock Street next to us either. They do have a new development behind us. So we thought on the far right side, out front, and 4 out back would be best, just to address that. So, I mean, we'll see what we can do with the landlord about getting 8 out back, but I just don't know how that's gonna work. There's just not enough room in our footstep to have 8 trucks there. And there was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh, the brush on the side of the building, I mean, we're not even on that side of the building. We're all the way on the opposite end, like almost as far as you can go. How is that our responsibility to have the landlord or management company maintain that brush? We don't mind suggesting that to him and letting him know that you guys brought up as an issue, but why should that be part of our special permit that has nothing to do with us?
Through the chair.
Alderman Mercer-Bruin.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, but the address is 215 for the entire building?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes,
It's
and we're
not
unit-
just Lightning Express?
No,
Okay,
there's-
thank you very much.
You're welcome. There's
Thank
a
you.
lot of different businesses.
Thank you
in
very
there.
much.
Thank you.
I'm all done.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so diligent.
Is there anyone else here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Lightning Express? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, is there a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion?
I was going to make a motion that the permit be approved with the following conditions, and I'm going to do them one by
By
one.
one, and we'll vote one by one as well. So, Madam Clerk, let us know when you're ready.
The petition is limited to 8 vehicles only.
Okay.
Is the
Second.
first.
Are you,
There's a motion and a second to adopt that first condition. All those in favor?
aye.
Motion carries.
Just quickly.
I'm making sure Clerk Higgins has it written down, so before we vote, I want to make sure she's clear on what we're approving.
The
All
last
the
one, you
vehicles
can-
are to be registered in the city of Woburn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The hours of operation are to be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday, no Sundays or holidays.
There is no second, so no vote will be called. Is there an alternative motion on the hours of operation?
7 to 9.
I believe the,
It was,
Make a motion, the hours of operation be 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Saturday, and that no loading of trucks occur before 7 a.m.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
A motion carries 8-1. Alderman Mercer-Bruin opposed.
no trailers are allowed to be stored on the property.
Is there a second?
You couldn't hear her. I got-
No,
Sorry,
no
no
trailers.
trailers.
No trailers are allowed to be stored on the property.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
For discussion, there was some comments about the number of vehicles out back and the number of vehicles out front. I spoke to Inspector Quinn, and he concurred that the vehicles should be parked out back. But I'm certainly willing to discuss 4 out front and
I was
4
gonna say, would you be amenable to, that 4 vehicles shall be parked out back and 4 vehicles may be allowed to be parked out front, but not abutting any residential areas?
Yes, and not along the Salem Street line of sight, so someplace else on the
Okay.
lot.
So the motion would be that there shall be 4 vehicles parked out back, 4 vehicles parked out front, but they are not to be parked abutting a residential district or on the Salem Street line of sight.
Second.
Oh, can someone make the motion? I
Oh,
can't
I
do
thought-
that.
I'm sorry.
I can only suggest.
Oh, that was, I know, I thought.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The parking spaces are to be striped and maintained year-round.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The
Motion
vehicles must be marked Lightning Express.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
No outside storage of any materials.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
A professional road and control plan will be provided to the Board of Health quarterly.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The dumpster must be screened and cannot be emptied before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
The permit is issued to Lightning Express and is not transferable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 8 to 1.
Trucks are not permitted. A certified plot plan was submitted, so we don't need that. I'm going to leave it at that. And
Do you
then-
want to, can we make the motion that the certified plot plan be the plan dated, what was it, Clerk Higgins,
9/15/1981.
1981?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. No, I'm good.
That the petitioner agrees to not use any roads in Woburn that have permitted no trucking zones,
Second.
with the keyword permitted.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'm going to leave the issue of the brush after we finish this. I'm going to ask that a communication be sent to the landlord. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Clerk Higgins, how many conditions was that?
I have 13.
Sure.
Sounds about right. Is there a motion and a second to grant the special permit with all 13 conditions as previously adopted?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'd
Thank you.
I'd also like to make a motion that we send a communication to the owner of 215 Salem Street, alerting him that the overgrown brush onto the sidewalk that is along Wood Street needs to be trimmed and cut back as it is impairing pedestrian movement.
I'll
Second.
second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Yes.
Two more questions. So you said the trucks can't be visible from Salem Street. Imagine this is Salem Street. All
They
of this-
can't be on the
on this-
line of sight of Salem Street.
So like, they just can't be this way, they could be this way though?
Yes.
Okay.
Hancock Street side's fine. They just can't be on the front or the right side of the
I
property.
understand that. And the
Yeah.
second thing is you said no outdoor.
Should we open the public
storage.
hearing again, or?
No, this is fine.
You said no outdoor storage. We do have a propane tank that we have to keep outside a certain distance from the building. That's for our forklifts.
Doesn't include the propane
Yeah.
tank. It's
Okay.
storage of any kinds of materials or, yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Yep.
for all of your.
Thank
help.
you.
Nope, thank you.
Good
Take
luck.
care.
All right. Next, we have a petition by AVFX LLC, 9 Micro Drive, for a special permit to park 4 commercial vehicles overnight. A communication was received from the planning department. Is there a motion and a second that any and all communications, including that communication, be received and made part of the permanent record?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney Salvati, you have the floor.
Good evening again, Attorney Mark Salvati for the petitioner, 57 Arlington Road in Woburn. I did see the planning board issues. I will like to address them fairly quickly, but basically this is a audio-visual company. They have a lot of equipment that they go to conventions and conferences, set up all the visual, like the screen here on a larger scale. So that's kind of their operation. They do a lot in town. They do a lot in Cambridge at various conferences. What they do is they load at night, similar to the last petitioner. Actually, they load during the day and take off the next morning. So the hours we can discuss in a moment. On the issues presented by the planning board, I think the conditions have addressed many of them. There were about 10. Numbers 1, 4, 6, and 8 will all be addressed by providing a certified plot plan to the building commissioner when it is time for an occupancy permit. This is actually a case where we're coming in beforehand and asking for permission before we started operations. They do have a building permit at this point to do some work on the office. They have not filed for an occupancy. When they do file for an occupancy, they will present to the building department a certified plot plan showing compliance with parking and lighting and everything that the planning board had requested. The request to have extra spaces for the drivers of the vehicles is somewhat irrelevant because 3 of the spaces are basically at the loading dock. They don't take up a space, and there's ample parking. The third thing they asked is that they weren't exactly in front of the loading dock, but they will be in front of the loading docks, at least 2 of them. The request for the delivery van is a standard-sized van and will fit into a standard-size space. The question was, will the overnight parking increase the traffic in the area? If the question is whether it's based on the prior use, it will not. There was a printer there before who had quite a few deliveries, much more than this company will have. Basically, they'll have trucks going out, potentially probably 10 trips a week at most. Not a lot, not a lot. Their main focus is to get to a conference, set it up, they leave it there, their guys go and run the conference, and then they wait and pick it all up, almost at the end of the week or after a 3-day conference. So it should not impact traffic very much. There was a question about an easement. There's a water line easement that goes across the property that's irrelevant to the petition. And our hours would be basically 9 to 5. There may be some return of vehicles after 5, but there would be no unloading. They would just be parked and the guy would drive home. So with that, I'd be glad to take any questions from the council.
Alderman Mercer Bruin?
I'll defer to Alderman Gately.
Alderman Gately?
Hi,
Hi.
Mark, that's my ward. That's right down the street from my house. And they've had a lot of business in there. I don't know, they still have a gym in there? Or they
No,
closed up?
the gym's gone and the printer is gone. Inscribe was the prior tenant. They were here for a special permit, but they're gone as well.
I haven't been down there in a while. Has the landscape company bailed out of there too?
I believe so, yeah.
That place is dead down there, huh?
In that building.
Wow. I got no issue with these guys moving in down there. Even they can park out front, they can park out back. What they do is not traumatic.
Yeah, it's just two, I think the conditions call for two 26-foot box trucks, one 16-foot, and one van. That's it.
And they're gonna be registered in Woburn?
All to be registered in Woburn. I believe we have the conditions, if Alderman Bruin wants to read them.
And the hours of operation are what?
9 to 5, with the understanding that they may return after 5, but not to unload.
I'll make those conditions, but Darlene's got some she's made out also. I'm all set.
Thank you. Alderman Mercer Bruin?
Thank you. And so I had an opportunity to review some of these, or most of them, with Alderman Gately, and you as well, Attorney
Correct.
Savati.
Yep.
So let's just go through them one at a time.
Sure.
That two 26-foot box trucks, one 16-foot box truck, and one delivery van shall be allowed to be parked overnight in the location provided as shown on the plot plan file with the petition. All commercial vehicles will be registered in the city of Woburn. No commercial vehicle shall utilize Nashua Street when leaving or returning to the facility. A certified site plan showing compliance with Woburn zoning ordinance parking and lighting requirements shall be provided to the building department prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. I'm going to add temporary or otherwise. Is that okay with you,
That's
Attorney?
okay. Yep.
Savati?
That's okay.
This special permit shall be specific to AVFX LLC and shall be non-transferable. The vehicles are to be marked with the company name is number 6. That there shall be no outside storage of materials is number 7. And number 8, the petitioner agrees to not, as we talked about earlier with another petitioner, agrees not to use roads in the city of Woburn that have a state permitted no trucking permit signs. Is that agreeable?
Yes, those 3 are all fine as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's all I have. And a quick question for you. Did you want to limit the hours of operation to 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or if
I think if we're going to put it
9 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
Yeah, let's put it 9 to 7.
So,
Do we want to increase it just a little bit more in case people get there early? Do we want to just do like 7 to 7?
7 to 7 would probably be best.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
Yeah, we're fine with that.
I'm okay with that if Alderman Gately's okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And Alderman
Okay.
Ferrullo?
To the chair of,
Yep.
down Nashua Street has that little 100 yards that goes out onto Main Street. Is that included in your restriction? Because that would force all the trucks up Woburn Hill.
So
And you mean to cut across
Yes, from
There's
the,
100 yards of Nashua Street. If we say all of Nashua Street, it inhibits them from getting to Green Street.
so
I don't know the word, I don't know what the right words are.
how do we typically word this? Actually, I was thinking about that, Alderman Furlow earlier. So it's the portion, the no commercial vehicle shall utilize the portion of Nashua Street from, Holton,
From Draper to Holton.
from Draper to Holton. That long stretch, that's all
I
residential.
think we all understand, yep.
I think that is exactly the terminology. So I'll say that that would be number 3. No commercial vehicle shall utilize a portion of Nashua Street from Draper to Holton when leaving or returning to the facility. And thank you, Alderman Furlow, for pointing that out.
38 years I drove around.
And I'll just state for the record, I'll vote for all the conditions and spare us having to vote for each individual condition one by one, but want to register my objection to the non-transferability.
So
Duly noted, Mr. President.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by AVFX? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to grant the special permit with all, Alderman Mercer Bruin, how many conditions were there? Was it 8 or 9?
I think it was 9.
I have 9.
9?
Motion to grant the public hearing with 9 conditions set forth by the council.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to grant the special permit with all 9 conditions as previously recommended by the council. All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have a petition by Continuous Pharmaceuticals for a special permit. We did receive an email communication today from the planning director. They have not finished their public hearing. They expect to be done on September 14th. Just wanted to put that out there on the record. Attorney Tarver, you have the floor.
Yes, we're going to need the screen,
Yep.
Mr. President.
My knee's locked up.
Getting old, Eddie.
I was going to say, you're too young for that.
Okay, while we're waiting for the screen to warm up, I'll begin my presentation. The presentation this evening will consist of an introduction to Continuous Pharmaceuticals by Ernest Panaccio, who's the Vice President, Technical Operations, and then Jim Jackson of Park Corporation will review the site plan review, and then Mr. Panaccio will then address the comments from the department heads that we've received. So the petitioner is seeking 2 sets of permits, one from the city council and one from the planning board. So the petition before the city council is approval of a revised site plan that's been filed with the special permit petition, and then to modify the decision of March 29, 2018, to allow for approximately 37,728 square feet of light manufacturing space, approximately 5,916 square feet of storage use, and approximately 13,038 square feet of office use. The decision in 2018 allowed for 17,360 square feet for warehouse and distribution with wholesale, and then 24,800 square feet of office use and 7,440 square feet of light manufacturing use. We're also seeking a special permit to allow for the requested uses within the limits of the floodway and floodplain, then site plan approval pursuant to section 12.2.4, and a special permit pursuant to 5.153 to allow for high hazard use on the premises. The property is located in the Industrial Park zoning district, which requires a special permit from the planning board who has jurisdiction over light manufacturing. So we were before the planning board on July 27th on the public hearing on the light manufacturing use. After hearing the presentation, the board indicated they looked favorably toward the petition, but wanted us to address concerns raised by the department heads, which were nothing unusual, but the typical concerns. That public hearing was continued to September 14th. Then on August 3rd, we met with the following department heads: Tom Quinn, Building Commissioner; Tina Cassidy, Planning Director; Jay Corey, City Engineer; Jay Duran, DPW Superintendent; Lieutenant Keith Perry, the Fire Department; Teresa Murphy, Conservation Director, to review the project and then to discuss their comments that they had submitted in advance. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Ernest Panaccio, who will take you through introduction to the applicant, which is Continuous Pharmaceuticals. So, Ernest.
Thank you for your time tonight. I'm Ernie Panaccio. I'm with Continuous Pharmaceuticals, and I'm the Vice President of Operations. And I wanted to introduce you to Continuous Pharmaceuticals, let you know a little bit about our technology, and then talk about what we're interested in proposing for 32 Cabot in Woburn. This is an MIT spin-out company, similar to many in the area over the years. It was a spin-out, it was a collaboration between Novartis and MIT, which was an $84 million joint research endeavor. And this manufacturing center is all about taking traditional batch manufacturing processes and converting them into continuous manufacturing processes, which allow us to produce product in a more streamlined fashion with less waste, higher product, and better overall efficiency. The company's backed by several major equipment manufacturers. One of the biggest companies that backs us is a company called EMA. And EMA is a company that, out of Italy that manufactures a lot of the pharmaceutical equipment that is used today to manufacture the vaccines. Our expertise is in what we call API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, or drug substance manufacturing, reactions, extractions, crystallizations, typical pharmaceutical manufacturing unit operations that are typically done in a batch format that we're expert in converting to continuous. We also have expertise in drug product manufacturing and statistical analysis and control of production. We also have innovator projects in our pipeline with companies like Roche and Mylan, and we have collaborated both with the FDA and U.S. Pharmacopeia for utilization of our technology in the commercial markets. Our corporate structure is multi-pronged attack on creating this company. We have an engineering division, a generics division, and an advanced manufacturing services, which is a contract manufacturing operation. Our development and engineering operations are currently also located in Woburn. 25 Olympia is our base of operations. We have research and development labs there, and we have a pilot plant. And at 256 West Cummings is our most recent endeavor in Woburn, and that's also gives us a boost with respects to research and development of these potential drug products. Then on the generic side and the advanced manufacturing services, or the contract side, that's where we're looking to utilize 32 Cabot for that base of operations. So as our name would imply, we're innovators in the area of continuous manufacturing. So in order to describe that, it's helpful to take a look at what the traditional supply chain looks like. And this is a fairly traditional supply chain. Probably 70 to 80% of the drugs that we have here in the United States follow a similar process. So you can see all of your active pharmaceutical ingredients and your drug substance is being produced and sourced from overseas, mostly China, India, and several European outfits. And most of these manufacturers are utilizing this batch process. And once they manufacture these components, we then have to bring them into the United States either via flights or by boat, bring them through customs, bring them all the way into the United States where much of the drug product manufacturing happens. And the drug product is essentially taking these raw materials and turning them into a form that you would see either from a prescription or over the counter. Pills, tablets, in the hospital setting, you've got injectables, you might have some nasal sprays or lozenges, patches. That's your drug product production. So there's a bit of inefficiency when it comes to getting half the supply chain done overseas and then bringing the components back to the US. Our technology is meant to take a batch process where you would batch up a bunch of reactions and solutions in large vats, and you would produce your product and then have to further process it either at another facility or even in another country at another facility. So the continuous manufacturing model daisy chains all of these unit operations together that are typically done across multiple sites and gives you the efficiency of producing product in a continuous fashion from the front to the back, where you have a lot more control, you need to use a lot less material and energy, a lot less solvents, and essentially you can drive up the quality of the product, so you have less waste. So what we're trying to do at Continuous is we're trying to collapse the supply chain under a single roof. So instead of relying on foreign countries to produce half the product, then bringing it in through customs and producing the final drug product, we're trying to take the API or the drug substance manufacturing process and couple it with the drug product process and bring it all under one roof here in Woburn in 32 Cabot. And essentially we would then be distributing out to the patients direct from Woburn. So the U.S. government has an initiative under Executive Order 13944, and essentially what happened was when COVID came in last year, March of last year, a lot of the visibility was put on these ventilators. We were running short on ventilators. We were trying to produce them. They, we were having a lot of problems because the situation got out of control faster than anybody could have even imagined. And when everything shut down, so did the supply chain, the flights, everything else. And all of these active pharmaceutical ingredients were being manufactured overseas. So what was happening was where we were short on ventilators, behind the scenes there was a much bigger problem with respects to if in the emergency room a doctor needs to intubate somebody and they only have 2 out of the 3 drugs, they're in trouble. And as this pandemic grew, the problem became very dire. And the U.S. government saw this, and under this executive order, created a fund of money to be used to basically try to bring back manufacturing into the U.S. Now, the government also is very astute in a sense that they understand that the reason why people are manufacturing these products in China is because they can take advantage of loose environmental regulations and cheap labor. So the only way you can compete with that, economics being what it is to utilize technology to drive down a cost and improve efficiency through technologies such as continuous manufacturing and other technologies that we need to develop in order to bring the manufacturing back and still be competitive on a global scale. So Continuous Pharmaceuticals was lucky enough to be the recipient of some of this money coming in from the government via a grant for $69.3 million from the Department of Defense. And the grant was awarded on January 15th, and it was given to establish integrated continuous manufacturing at the commercial scale, initially of sterile injectable drugs or parenteral drugs. Essentially what they're after is any drugs that are on that critical medicines list that's a part of that executive order, based on this contract, the Department of Defense or Health and Human Services have first right for line time to produce any of these drugs that in the future may become in short supply, and they want a local source that they can go to and basically get what they need. So the money is meant to design and build out the GMP plant at 32 Cabot for the supply of any number of these critical medicines. And the total production volume of the plant is currently 100 million vials per year. And essentially that's what we're designing to at this point. Now, some of the technical innovation that comes with this project, number one is end-to-end continuous production of the API and the drug product, like we were describing. There's not another factory, there's not another facility in the world that does this. And there's not another drug in the world that's ever been registered through the FDA using that approach. So it's a very innovative, first of its kind facility. And based on continuous manufacturing, you have a lot of upside with respects to improving product quality and utilizing what we call real-time release, which is more of an electronic version of monitoring product quality so that you can drive up efficiency and reduce waste. And then finally, we're also designing this plant to have multiple drug product capabilities. So at first, we're putting in a vial filling line, similar to the one that you see pumping out vaccine, basically same machine. But we're also master planning the building so that we could also produce oral solid dosage forms such as tablets for any orals that are needed. And that, I wanted to give everybody a brief description of who we are and what we're trying to do when we come and request what we're requesting. We also have the site plans that we wanted to share with you, just so you could see what we're looking at and what we're trying to do. So that's all of them right there.
Good evening. My name is Jim Jackson. I'm with Par Corporation.
See what she does.
And I'd like to present the site plans. So this is a plan of 32 Cabot site that was approved in 2018 to be constructed, and the construction was completed in 2019. This is an as-built plan of the building. It shows the approximately 50,000 square foot building that was developed. It's 2 floors, 25,000 square feet each floor, and Attorney Tarby went through the various uses that were approved in 2018 and the changes to the uses that we're asking to make. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see the building, and then the site most of the site drains to underground infiltration systems that were on the site and were approved in 2018. Our project, Continuous was fortunate to find this building in a condition ready to go. It meets most of their needs, but they do need to add an addition on the back, and they need to add some equipment onto the rooftop and also into a utility structure on the back of the structure. So they do have to do some modifications, so we want to present those in our site plan, and I'll show you that now. So this is the site plan. It's almost exactly what was submitted with the package, with our permit package. We have made a few minor revisions that I'll go through after I go through what we're proposing. But on the plan, lower right corner of the building, we're going to be adding an approximately 7,000 square foot addition, which will be 2 levels of manufacturing space. And then just to the left of that will be the utility structure, which will be 3 levels. They're approximately 3,000 square foot each level. And those will, it'll be an open structure that'll have equipment on each level. There also, to the left of the additions, there is some solvent storage tanks, some for new solvents, some for waste solvents. And those will have containment. Around the 4 solvent tanks, there'll be a concrete containment, and it'll be covered so that it won't receive really much storm water. That'll keep the storm water out, and the containment will be in case there is a spill, a leak from one of the tanks. There's a loading pad right next to the tanks, and that will also be contained. So when they are working, either loading new solvents or offloading waste solvents, they'll be able to close any drainage valves in the area with actuated valves, so that in the event of a leak, nothing would get into the stormwater system. It would all be contained. To the left of the building on the plan, there is a new generator proposed, and some transformers and switch gears related to the electrical system. We will be bringing in a larger water line to the site and a larger gas line. The larger water line is mainly for fire protection for the proposed uses of the building. And we do show, this is one of the changes from the plans that we originally submitted, we do show an additional repaving out at Cabot Street to meet the curb-to-curb replacement and 100-foot length of paved area. We got a comment on that. We have also changed, on the plans that we originally submitted, we were showing bituminous berm. We'll be using all granite curbing now to match what's existing at the site. Another change is we have added fencing around the solvent tanks to just secure those a little bit better. The overall site disturbance, we're going to stay within the paved area except for a very minor area where we're going to open up, I think it's under 200 square feet of added pavement in an area just to improve some of the traffic flow. But there will be no new parking paved areas. And that new pavement will be offset with, where we'll remove some impervious area from the site. So the stormwater system will remain as it was designed and approved in 2018 and constructed, I believe, in 2019. So it's all the underground infiltration system will serve the site. And I believe that's, we also have a 3D view, which gives a little better view of the project. So this 3D view just shows a little more of the proposed site improvement. So towards the left side of the plan is the existing building. We will be adding some equipment to the top, HVAC equipment and things to the top of the building, existing building. And then to the lower right is the addition and that utility platform that I talked about. And then just adjacent to the utility platform shows the 4 solvent tanks, which will be located there, and some of the other assorted equipment on the outside. And then on the lower kind of left of the 3D view, it shows where the generator and transformers will be located. And that gives a kind of a summary of what we're proposing out there. So if you have any questions, we're open for that.
Any questions or comments from the council? Alderman Gately. And then
Didn't we build this building about 5-6 years ago? Wasn't it under Cummings that we did this?
No, this was approved in 2018. It was built by Mr. Trainer that owned Peterson Party Supply right next to there. It's right across from Cummings' building.
Okay, on Captain Road? Yeah, okay.
And just for the record, we did accept I think it was a communication from Cummings stating their support for the petition, but just wanted to let everyone know for the record.
So you're gonna put an addition on the front?
No, the addition will be on the back of the building. It's all in the back.
All right. So you got I
Yeah,
need more,
this,
I need a lot more than what I'm seeing there to understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah, on this
You're trying to
3D
put
view,
your
it's,
generator, and the original water, is it coming through the front of that building
yes, the water is in the front.
along with the sewer?
Yes.
And what's on the other side of you guys? Where that building is now, if I drove up the street beyond your building, what's up there on the left?
The vet hospital?
Pet hospital. And around the corner is another shop that sells tools and equipment and stuff like that there?
Yeah, the Granger is across the
Granger?
street.
Across the street, okay. I'm trying to visualize where that building came from. I love what you guys do, it's just, it's amazing what you do. I gotta see a better plan of that, but if it's what you say it is, I got no issue with that. You know? What you're doing is fantastic. If you need more space, we'll get you more space. But I'd like to see a better rendition than what you're showing us up there. Okay?
Okay.
Alderman Ferrullo?
This is gonna sound like a weird question. On slide 4 and 5 of the first presentation, just out of curiosity, can you tell me how much you compress the production for when you're bringing it in overseas to when you're using it? How much more efficient are you gonna be? Don't go back to it. I mean, it's the one where you had the airplanes bringing it in, and the next slide was the continuous.
So the API portion, the active pharmaceutical portion of this factory is 50% of one of the floors. So I believe that's 25,000 square feet of menu.
Make a pill using it the old-fashioned way, bringing in the drugs from Italy, and then building it versus what you're gonna do now. Are you gonna cut your production time in half, a third, a quarter?
It's probably a fourth. You'd need 100,000 square feet to do what we're gonna do in about 25,000 square feet on this building.
Just curious.
Alderman Mr. Bruin?
Just wanted to concur with Alderman Gately. I think this is amazing, and I'm so happy that you've decided to do it here in Woburn. And I gotta say, I just love this country because we figure it out, right? A problem emerged because of COVID, many problems, but the supply chain, I work in a hospital. I can attest to everybody here the problems that we had and the shortages that we had, not just with ventilators, but with all kinds of drugs. So I'm hoping other people are paying attention to the kind of work that you're doing, because the supply chain issues are not just with pharmaceuticals. So I applaud you, and I'm excited you're coming here to Woburn, or staying here in Woburn and expanding. Obviously, we need to get through a lot of other things from the planning board, the department heads, and Chairman Gately will have a meeting for special permits, and we'll talk about some conditions, but you have my support 100%.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Alderman Dillon?
I echo the other aldermen, this is great, very, very thought-out process, state-of-the-art, and what I particularly like, where you state that you're doing, taking away the inexpensive labor part overseas. I view that as child labor. Anything that we can do to help our world is a good thing. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Alderman Campbell?
It is critical that we get manufacturing back in the United States. I love the idea that you're thinking outside of the box, and that now we're going to be employing more employees here in the United States than overseas. So thank you very much. I applaud you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Attorney Tyler, we'll continue this to the second meeting in September, so we can...
Yes. Yeah, we have, we were gonna, I know you have a long agenda. We were gonna address the department head comments, but I think, given the agenda, we'll submit those in writing.
And, yeah, we can review that in committee.
And we can review them in committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So
Open
moved.
public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Continuous Pharmaceuticals? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one,
I'll
is
make
there a motion to...
we continue the public hearing for the second meeting in September?
So that would be
September
September
21st.
21st.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This has been continued to our second meeting on September 21st.
Should I
Thank
get
you.
should I get a,
Do you want to make a motion to
committee
send it?
meeting?
Do you want to make a motion to send it off to the Committee on Special Permits as well?
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have a petition by Nick's Pizza Roast Beef and Subs for a special permit. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Theophan Kirjazi, and I live on 764 Lowell Street in Peabody. And I want to open a pizza place, and I know on Main Street, and used to be a pizza place there because it's been 1 year closed. I had to come for special permit. I got the permit like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, but because of the COVID, they had me. I lost my father. I went down there. The guy who used to own the building over there passed away, and all this situation with the COVID, you know, and that's why they gave me. They said,
And you received the memo from the planning
for the
board?
special permit, yeah.
And did you receive the planning board memo where they have a few questions on the application?
Yes.
Were you able to review it? I think one of the only real issue I saw was 12 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet, so I'm not sure what that would calculate out to, but, and there was no plot plan that was filed with the petition?
Can I speak?
Yes, yep.
Okay,
Just state your
Gary
name.
Levitt, just for the record.
And your address as well?
I'm helping him out, just in case there was any kind of...
Your address, name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gary Levitt, 2 Darling Drive, here in Woburn.
So, I guess, do you have any comments back on the planning board memo?
No, well, there's a couple. I was hoping that maybe you could ask us some questions. I read the entire memo, and the parking that exists, there's no way that you can change that. That's been there for, what, maybe 50, 75 years, whatever business has been there. It's the same spots out back.
Yeah.
And it's the same spots that exist out on the street as well. The parking between what they're looking for, 12 spots, he has 6 out back and at least 6 out front if you run it all the way up to the corner from one end to the
Well,
other.
it doesn't require 12, it's based on square footage. How big is the area that he has? How many square foot?
Well, he owns the building.
Oh, the whole building?
Yeah, he owns the building now, but
Okay.
he owns the pizza place too.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, he would only need it 12, for the use. So is the whole building gonna be the pizza place, or is there still that?
No, the haircut place is still there.
So do you know how much just the fast food place is? How many square feet?
It's 12,000 square feet.
1,200.
1,200
square feet, yeah.
Okay, so about 12, okay, so about 12 parking spaces.
I wish.
I was gonna say 12,000, then, you know.
We're all going up there for a party.
Alderman Gately?
I grew up there. I used to hang around in Shelsea's right down the street. I know that building very well. He used to have a trailer, and they take the trailer out?
Yeah, the trailer's gone.
Trailer's gone. It was a trailer. The guy used to get breakfast and lunches and dinners in. You know, it was Jack's trailer. It was beautiful stuff. But they've always had a little parking issue up there, but those parking spaces out back of that building have always been the parking spaces. And all the parking that you have in the front, plus up Minot Street, plus around on Elm Street, there's plenty of parking there. It just doesn't, you don't have it in the back because it's never been in the back. Those parking spots were made up. And there used to be a family named Preble that lived behind there. And they were never gonna sell that land and take that garage down they had, so the parking's always been there, just like it is. Ain't gonna change. That building's always been a cornerstone to the people up in North Woburn. There's always been a restaurant in there, always been a pizza place in there. Thai food, all kinds of stuff in there. I don't think it would hurt to let this man open up a pizza shop for 1,200 square feet in that building. And the parking is what it is, and I can't change that. So, what else do you have on the planning board say?
What else didn't they say?
Okay, it's,
I mean, I have no issue with the petition.
uh,
I have no issue with the petition. I think the
He
the
has
memo was quite long for 1,200 square feet.
He does have an obligation to bring in a plot plan
Yeah,
of the building. You do have an obligation to make sure that you take care of the refuge, and, you know, you have to do pest control, absolute pest control. And we're hard on that, you know. Hours of operation would be what?
11 to 8, 11 in the morning to 8. Deliveries would be between 9 and 10:30, 10:45 at the latest. And as far as the dumpsters, he'll be on top of that.
Yeah, so you're gonna open up at what time? Speak down a little bit, Gary.
I know.
You're blowing my eardrums
let's
out.
just, we'll say,
Probably gonna strangle you.
we'll say 8 to 9. We'll say 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
8 a.m. to 9 p.m., okay.
No, 11 a.m.
No, we'll give you wiggle room because of deliveries. So
Gotcha,
like,
sorry.
we'll just,
All right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know he was serving breakfast. I was unaware of that.
So what do they agree to, 8?
8 to 9,
8 to
7 days a
9,
week.
7 days a week? Nothing wrong with that. It's a nice spot, you know.
You're going to love his food. I'm telling you.
Yeah. You got a big,
Any other?
you got playgrounds down there, you got a nice CVS in there now, you know.
And just before we move on, can we just get a motion that the application be included, be amended to be included with site plan review in accordance with section 12 of the Woburn zoning code?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And before we open the public hearing, any other questions or comments from the council?
Make them open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries. If you guys just step away for one moment. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Nick's Pizza, Roast Beef, and Subs? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing
Make a
no
motion,
one?
close the
Make a
public
motion
hearing.
to close the
Second.
public hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Make a motion to grant the special permit with the conditions set forth by the council.
Second, and the conditions are that a certified plot plan be provided, a rodent control plan be put in place, the hours of operation are to be 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Yep. 7 days a week.
7 days a week. The dumpsters are to be, are not to be emptied before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m.
And screened.
and screened. That's all I've got.
You have all that, Clerk Higgins?
You guys agree to all that? Okay.
All right. All is in favor of granting the special permit with the conditions as outlined?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Good luck.
President Tedesco, can I make a motion to take a 2-minute recess, please?
Can you make it a 5-minute recess?
I'll make it a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're in recess.
Hey, Lynn's?
Well, now that your leg is perfect.
Is there a motion to return to the regular order? Is there a second?
Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a petition by Popeyes 305 Mishawam Road. A communication was received from the city engineer, and a communication was received from Attorney Salvati. Is there a motion to receive and place any and all communications on the permanent record?
So moved. Second.
All is in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney
Good
Salvati,
evening
you have the
again,
floor.
Attorney Mark Salvati for the petition of Popeyes. In the interest of brevity, I think we've kind of beat this one around enough. I believe we have a agreed-to set of conditions, and with that, I'd be glad to take any questions, and we'll then read them in.
Alderman Mercer Bruin?
Yep, I just, for the council, I think everybody, thank you to Clerk Lindsay, has a copy of the conditions that Attorney Salvati and I put together. I'll read through them quickly if you like, President Tedesco?
That'd be great.
One, that the hours of operation shall be 7 days a week, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Two, the petitioner shall perform the following work: change center lane east on Mishwan Road to allow for both a left turn and straight maneuver with associated light head configuration, line signage, and line striping, and installation of a new A1 unit and Performance Plus package at the traffic signal at Popeye's driveway and Mishwan Road, all as outlined by the city engineer in the memo dated August 3rd, 2021. The special permit and building permit may issue prior to the completion of this work, but no temporary or permanent occupancy permit shall issue until work is complete and has been approved by the city engineer. Number 3, a covered trash can will be installed at the front entrance to the store, will be emptied regularly. 4, a copy of a professional rodent control plan will be provided to the Board of Health quarterly, with a copy to the Special Permits Committee. The building and the, number 5, the building and the color palette of such will be as represented in the photos presented to the City Council on August 2nd, 2021. All signage will be in compliance with the Woburn zoning ordinances. Number 7, sales of goods and services are restricted to inside the building. Number 8, absent an emergency order allowing for the same, no outside seating is permitted. Number 9, petitioner will ensure that the cars visiting Popeyes are not blocking roadways during peak times of day, including 12 to 2 p.m. and 4 to 6 p.m., with traffic management and, if deemed necessary by the Chief of Police for safety, professional police traffic management. The dumpsters, number 10, the dumpsters will be screened and locked. Number 11, the special permit shall be for Popeyes only and is non-transferable as it is fast food. The parking lot will be maintained and cleaned as needed. And I just want to thank Attorney Salvati and City Clerk Higgins and President Tedesco. I know there was a lot of information going back and forth, and the amount of time that went into this. Thank you. If anybody has any other suggestions, but that's what we came up with.
That was the 12 conditions?
It was a total of 12. Is that what you have, Attorney
12.
Salvati?
That's what I have.
Clerk Higgins, do you have a copy of all those as well?
I do,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Alderman Campbell?
Through the chair, Darlene, do you think it's necessary that we put in no drive-through? Or do you feel like where you had put in for one of the conditions that no food would be sold outside?
Attorney Salvati, I know it's, you didn't request a drive-through. Would you be okay with a condition number 13 that there is no drive-through?
Of course, that'd be another special permit anyway.
Yep, but if it makes the council feel better, then I'm fine with a condition number 13 to that effect.
Yeah,
If the
okay.
attorney's okay with it.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none,
I make a motion on the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Popeyes 305 Mishawam Road for a special permit? Seeing no one.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to grant the permit with the 13 conditions as outlined here this evening.
And the 13th being that there shall be no
No
drive-through.
drive-through.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a petition by Woburn Apna Bazaar, Inc. Is there a motion to receive and place on the permanent record any and all communications received?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney Tarby, you have the floor.
For the record, Joseph Tabby, Reuben Redmond, 600 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, here on behalf of the petitioner. As you know, petitioner has requested a special permit under section 5.1, 69, and 7.3 to allow for a ethnic food market containing approximately 14,440 square feet of net floor area at 335 Washington Street. We met with the Special Permits Committee on August 3rd. Committee voted to send the petition to the City Council, ought to pass with 18 conditions. Petitioner has reviewed those conditions and has no issue with them. We do want to just run through the traffic improvements quickly. I thought we sped through them at the last meeting and just want to go over them one more time here.
Technology. Thank you. For the record, Scott Thornton with Vanessa and Associates. We prepared the traffic assessment for the project, and we also provided some supplemental information related to trip generation of similar uses, the Indian grocery markets, and also updated mitigation proposals. And I know the hour's late. I'm not going to take a lot of time going through everything that we discussed last week, but I thought it'd be important just to touch on a few items. One was we went out and we conducted counts at 2 existing Indian grocery stores, and if you recall, when we did the traffic analysis, we estimated traffic based on a conventional supermarket, so something similar to a Stop and Shop or a Market Basket. And we said at the time we thought it was high, but that was the data that we had, and we wanted to do a conservative analysis. So we went out and we found a couple other stores, one in Tewksbury and one in Salem, New Hampshire. And what we found was that the Indian grocery stores generate traffic at a rate that's less than half of what a typical supermarket would generate. So what this chart shows is the trips that would be associated using the Indian grocery store rates. Those are shown in blue. And the trips that would be generated by a conventional supermarket are the trips that are shown in orange. And you can see that the trips using the ITE rate, more conservative by more than twice the number that we would expect from this store. So the next slide. So the landowner has, in an effort to restrict the amount of traffic that cuts through from Cedar Street out to Washington Street, has agreed to install a number of speed bumps and it's not showing up, a number of speed bumps in this area of the curb cut with Cedar Street, and also some signs indicating no through traffic. And the goal here is to reduce the amount of traffic that cuts through from Cedar Street to the southern curb cut of the site, preserving the operations there at the southern curb cut and the Cedar Street curb cut as well for traffic that's associated with the site. And then just just some summary points. Project represents infill of existing vacant space, and that's still the same. The empirical traffic counts of other similar stores indicate the trip rates of less than half of what a typical supermarket would generate. What we discussed last time was that there's a pedestrian flasher, a signalized push-button device called an RRFB installation on Washington Street just north of the site. That's expected to calm traffic flow on Washington Street and improve operations for traffic turning into and out of driveways in the area of the flasher. At the request of the city engineer, the applicant has increased their mitigation commitment from $10,000 to $17,500 to replace existing signal equipment that is not functioning properly. When this new equipment is in place, the 2 signals at Cedar Street and Salem Street will be able to communicate with each other, will have better operations and better traffic flow than what's currently the case, and better operations with the project than without the project. And given the fact that the trip generation is likely cut in half or less than half of what was previously identified, but the mitigation has nearly doubled. This applicant has doubled their mitigation efforts while their traffic impact has come down by more than half. So we feel that that's something worth pointing out. In addition, as I mentioned, the landowner has proposed the installation of the speed bumps. We have a letter from Jay Corey from August 3rd that recommended the acceptance of the mitigation measures. You know, I think that the applicant has agreed to do a lot of work here for what's basically a re-tenanting, and the impacts that they are presenting are minimal in relation to the amount of mitigation that they're proposing. Yeah, the only other thing, right, there's, you know, going back to some of the initial points that we presented, there were no crashes observed at the intersections of the site with Washington Street. So, you know, the safety is not, the safety at those driveways is not an issue. We looked at 3 years worth of crash data out there and did not observe any incidents of crashes at those study area intersections, at the driveway intersections. So, you know, just one more point that raises really confirms the issue that the site has a minimal impact on Washington Street. I think that's it. If you have any questions, I'll be here.
Any questions or comments from the council?
No.
Alderman Dillon?
Help me out here. You increased the mitigation, you say, but the traffic's cut in half. Based on what?
So we did the counts of the other Indian grocery stores, grocery markets, and we found that those sites, those grocery stores, generate traffic at a rate that's less than half of what we initially expected. So whereas before, using the standard supermarket trip rate, we would expect that the project would have traffic volume increases equivalent to, say, it was 0.8 to 1.9% at the study area intersections. Now that number is really cut in half. So we're looking at percentage increases less than a full percent, somewhere between 2.25 and 0.8%, based on the new data.
I guess my response to that is there wasn't a grocery store there before, though. So you're basing it on.
They're basing it, so when they do a traffic count for a use, they're using a different traffic manual, and they try to guess the range of what the impact's going to be, and then they went to another grocery store and did an actual count.
Yeah, that's it exactly. So we counted actual stores to come up with a better rate that more accurately reflects this use. Because, you know, I think what I said before is that, you know, the general supermarket, the typical supermarket, has to cater to all ethnicities, right? They have to have, you know, an Indian section, a Chinese section, an Asian section, you know, and everybody else has to be, they have to include all those products and all the materials on their shelves, whereas the Indian grocery is catering to the Asian and the Indian market only. So it makes sense that their trips would be less and their trip rates would be less. We just weren't able to get the data prior to the initial preparation of the study. But we've got that data, and it verifies what we assumed.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Alderman Cannon?
Just real quick, I won't repeat everything I said in committee. We've been talking about this for a while. When we talk about Washington Street, everyone's antenna goes up. Crowded, busy street, despite the fact that the data may not show crashes specifically at the location of this driveway, a lot of that has to do with how the data is entered into the system. There are crashes on Washington Street, and there are near misses on Washington Street, probably 20 times a day, the near misses. So my antenna goes up when we talk about Washington Street. However, people have a right to develop and to utilize their property. This is vacant. Something is going to go in here, and something should go in here. I was a little concerned when I heard how wildly popular this might end up being, because I was concerned that this would exacerbate Washington Street's problems. We've heard that the data has been reevaluated, and perhaps it won't be as crowded as first thought. We've seen some measures put in place on Washington Street and in the parking lot to manage those who are coming to this area. So after going back and forth and wrestling with this, my thought is I'm going to support the use. I'm going to hope that the petitioner is successful, but not wildly successful. We don't need that. There's a need here, it's been demonstrated, and the petitioner has a right to establish a business, the owner has a right to rent out the space, and as long as they've taken reasonable measures to mitigate the impact and not make Washington Street worse, then I can support it.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Woburn Apna Bazaar Incorporated? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Alderman,
Before we do
Yeah.
that, I just had a quick question for Attorney Tarby.
Attorney Terry,
Has
Alderman,
to do with the conditions.
okay. Alderman Mercer Bruin has a question for you on the conditions before we close the public hearing.
And I'm, through the chair, I'm asking this question because I know we're going to go through the conditions, and there is one that I was going to request a change. I thought it was more appropriate to do it while the public hearing was open.
Yep, nope, that's appropriate.
Attorney Tarby, we have a list of 18 conditions, I think.
Correct.
Condition number 3, the mitigation, petitioner must install 2 M60 traffic controllers and 1 A1 controller add-on unit to improve operations at the intersections of Washington Street with Cedar Street and Washington Street and Salem Street. Work must be completed and fully tested and validated by the city engineer. I had originally said prior to operations, and I know you and I have talked about a change here where it says prior to occupancy permits being issued, temporary or otherwise. So I'd like to make a motion that we change that. Are you still okay with that condition?
Yeah, I had no issue with that, but I think Commissioner Quinn would prefer to see something else as opposed to tying into occupancy permit.
When I had a conversation with Commissioner Quinn earlier today, what he would like to see is that he gets a 15-day heads up on this. So 15 days before you know this is going to happen, he wants to be notified. It gives him time to validate that the work was done, the city engineer did his work. He's not opposed to the language of the occupancy,
Okay.
temporary otherwise, but he needs a little bit of heads up.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I just wanted to get
Yep,
the
no,
terminology
I just wanted to
right,
clarify
yeah.
what Inspector Quinn's concerns were, and we did speak at length today. So that's what he would like, is if he could get a 15-day heads up when you know that the work is planned to be reviewed by Jay Corey, so you don't come into his office the day that it's been done, because he still needs to validate all that.
Okay.
So, so that's all I had in terms of the conditions. I don't know if the council has any more things, but that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Which condition was that one, Alderman?
So that was
Mercer Bruin?
condition number 3.
To change,
Regarding-
to cross out engineer prior,
To operations and include engineer prior to.
occupancy permits.
Prior to occupancy permits.
Temporary or otherwise.
Temporary or otherwise.
Did you
being
want to add
issued.
anything with the?
And that the petitioner agrees to give the building department a 15-day
Notice.
notice regarding the completion of this work.
Is there a second on that amendment to condition 3?
Second.
Second, go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So just for the record, the committee report has been amended to, on condition 3 for the 18 conditions as previously adopted.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Before-
carries.
And before the council continues, I'd just like to make a brief statement, if I could, President
Yep,
Tedesco.
you have the floor, Alderman Russell-Berman.
I worked with the attorney on these conditions, but as I said during the special permits meeting, I cannot support this petition. I understand the need for this. I believe in the need for this, but I also believe that the numbers do not represent what's really going to happen here. And that, to me, was made very clear when we had people testify from all over the place. The petitioner tonight said that they did an additional study at Tewksbury and Salem, and they studied those Indian markets. Well, if those Indian markets are in Tewksbury and Salem, why are we hearing from people in Andover and Lawrence who can't wait for this thing to open? So I just want to be very clear, I just can't put my name on it. I just can't. I live that street like many other people in the city. I understand somebody's right to develop. I understand somebody's right to rent property, but I also understand the rights of the residents in this city. And at some point, we have to stop apologizing and say, I think it can work. And if you truly believe it can work, put your name on it, but I cannot. And I hope I'm wrong. Nothing would bring me greater satisfaction than to be wrong. But I'm sad to say, on more than one occasion, I've been very, very right when it comes to these things. So, having said that, I'll leave it, but understand I'm not going to support it. Do you want me to read through the conditions, President Tedesco, or just
First,
accept them?
I guess first we'd have to have a motion. Does anyone have a motion to grant the special permit, and there's certain findings that have to be made as well?
So moved.
Roll call.
I'll make a motion
Oh,
to
sorry.
adopt the 18 conditions as reported by the Special Permits Committee and amended this evening, as well as to make the following findings pursuant to Section 7.3 of the 1985 City of Woburn zoning ordinance. Number 1, the special permit petition is legally before the City Council. Number 2, the proposed uses or structures will not detract from the general purposes of this ordinance and will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use, as well as make the following finding that the extension or alteration will not be substantially more detrimental. The City Council makes the following special findings. 1, the ways providing vehicular and pedestrian access have the capacity to provide safe and ingress and egress to the property and proposed structure thereon, and uses thereof, with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety and convenience, traffic flow, and control and emergency access in case of fire, emergency, or catastrophe. 2, adequate water, sewage, and drainage facilities exist or will exist to service the proposed use. 3, adequate off-street parking and loading areas have been provided where required and will not result in undue noise, glare, or odor effects on adjoining properties or on properties generally in the district. 4, satisfactory provision has been made for snow storage and removal to ensure safety and for refuse collection, disposal, and services areas to minimize negative impacts on adjacent uses. 5, exterior lighting has been designed to minimize glare and any negative impacts on abutting roadways and properties and to be compatible and in harmony with other properties in the immediate area. 6, appropriate yards and other open space and landscaping have been provided as required and reasonable steps have been taken to ensure the privacy of adjacent existing uses. 7, the proposed use is generally compatible in scale and character with adjacent properties and other properties in this district. And 8, the proposal incorporates additional conditions and requirements as the City Council finds reasonably appropriate to safeguard the neighborhood or otherwise serve the purpose of this ordinance.
There's a motion to adopt, to grant the special permit with the 18 conditions as amended and to make the following 10 findings as outlined by Alderman Demers. Is there a second?
Roll call.
Second.
There's a second, and Clerk Higgins, please call the roll when you are ready.
Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Concanon.
Aye.
Alderman Demers.
Aye.
Alderman Dillon.
Opposed.
Alderman Ferrulo.
Aye.
Alderman Gately.
Aye.
Alderman Lannon.
Aye.
Yeah.
Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Opposed.
Alderman, President Tedesco.
Aye. Motion carries 7-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, good luck.
We'll give a couple of minutes to let the room clear out before we move on to the next one.
That's the next one. I got confused. Sorry. That was my bad. I have a reminder. But it was,
I'm not supposed to vote on that one.
yeah, but it's below it, so I got confused.
All right.
I don't think we need the screen anymore, Lindsay. If you want, I can shut it off. You hit it twice, so you hit the one and then hit it one more time. Yeah, yeah. Same button twice.
Hey, Paul.
I'm a newbie.
Just like that. Nothing.
That one's a fun one.
You know how to clear a room, President.
I know how to do it, Jeff. You are right.
It's Darlene's fault.
Get a degree in reading revision.
All right. Next, we have a petition by Jackson Lumber. Just for the record, Alderman Lannon cannot vote on this petition, but you can participate and ask questions as you see fit. That being said, can I get a motion to accept and place on the permanent record any and all communications received?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The petitioner has agreed to do a peer review, so they are going to ask to continue this to our next regular meeting, so that'd be September 7th. But can I get a motion that the city council authorizes the city engineer to engage a peer review to his recommendation?
So
Make
moved.
that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then just before we open the public hearing, just for the record, just on special permits going
Open the public
going
hearing.
forward. Before we do that, Alderman Gately, I think this petition has opened at least my eyes, to the problem that we have with regards to following process and procedure on special permits pursuant to our municipal and zoning code, as well as our special permit process. The DPW is not included in our special permit process procedure. The stormwater management is the purview of the city engineer under the zoning code and municipal code. And if we did proceed tonight and did deny based on the recommendation of the DPW superintendent, we would have been in violation of our own special permit process, our zoning code, and our municipal code, which on the face would have automatically, if appealed, would have been overturned. If the city council sees fit to include the DPW going forward on special permit process, I would work with the city solicitor on that, but the lane has to be clear that the city engineer is stormwater management, DPW is public utilities. Alderman Mercer Bruin.
So noted, very important, thank you for that. Not sure if Superintendent Duran was here during the special permits as the superintendent or as a resident. So I just want to put that on the record.
Yes, and I guess I would say if it was as a resident, it should not have been on a memo from the DPW.
So noted.
With that being said, is there a motion to open the public
So
hearing?
moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by Jackson Lumber?
Take it too. Motion to continue the public hearing.
All those in favor to continue this public hearing to our September 7th meeting?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0-1. And just for the record, Alderman Lannon abstained on all those votes. Next, we have a petition by FRH Realty LLC for a special permit. Just for the record, Alderman Lannon cannot vote on any votes that we take this evening, but he can participate and ask questions as he sees fit. With that being said, is there a motion to receive and place on the permanent record any and all communications received on this petition?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Attorney Tubb, you have the floor.
Okay. Here on behalf of the applicant, FRH Realty LLC, who's seeking a special permit under Section 23.5.5.2A and 23.5.53AB, and Section 12 to allow for 445 residential dwelling units, an accessory pool, accessory garages for the use of residents, site plan approval, special permit to allow fences over 3 feet high to be built within the street setback. Special permit is authorized by 23.7 of the zoning ordinance. A 6th special permit allowing for maximum height of fence to exceed 6 feet. 7, to allow for the various garages that are shown on the site plan, and 8, to allow for the private swimming pool on the site, and then to allow for the accessory garage to be set back if Newburgh is determined to meet the definition of a street, and to allow for the freestanding sign within the front yard setback, all as we have presented to you during this process. So as you know, we met on August 3rd with the Special Permits Committee, and there was a vote to send the petition out for action. After taking into consideration some of your comments, we've agreed to reduce the number of units from 445 to 425 units, with the 20 units that are being removed being all 3-bedroom units. We did submit at the last meeting proposed conditions, and what I'd like to do is submit the same conditions that are red-lined, actually blue-lined, that reference the 3 revised plans that we submitted today that just show the section of 1 building being reduced, changing proposed condition 12 to indicate that the project will not exceed 425 units, proposed condition 13 indicating that the affordable units are at 64 units, and the last condition, 17, indicating that the parking spaces are now at 702 spaces. So I'd like to submit those
Is there a motion
to
to
the
accept
council.
and make part of the permit?
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to point out these are, again, the same conditions that we had proposed last time. So with that, what we'd like to do is show you, by removing the 20 units, the minor change to the plan. So I'd like to introduce Brian Dundon of J. O'Connell, who'll go over that.
Since you can turn the screen back.
Yep.
Think so.
We can blow it up. Yeah, if you want to zoom it in. That'll work.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Brian Dundon. I am a project engineer with J. O'Connell and Associates. As a follow-up to Attorney Tarby's presentation, We have tonight before you a revised site plan which reduces the total residential unit count from 445 units to 425, to a proposal of 425 units. Essentially, the reduction in the 20 unit counts is attributed to the reduction of the 23-bedroom units. And where this, and how this affects the site plan is at the northeast corner of the 5-story residential footprint, we have reduced the 20 unit counts at that location. So it's in this general location where the building footprint has been reduced by approximately 35 feet from the old corner, which was almost in line with the parking structure. We have come in 35 feet from that dimension to establish the new rear wall of that apartment complex. So what that has allowed us to do is a couple things. One is with the reduction in the unit count, we have reduced the overall building footprint by 5,800 square feet. So therefore, the building coverage has now been reduced, and the opposite to that is the amount of open space has increased by the same amount of the building reduction. In addition to that, the floor area ratio for the overall development has been reduced by approximately 3%. As also Attorney Atari alluded to, we are also reducing the overall parking count from 732 spaces to 702 spaces. So the 30 space reduction is located within the planned parking structure. So in summary, those are the program changes that we have proposed. I would like to just note that in addition to as a result of the 20 unit reduction, it also has a favorable reduction in sewer flow discharge and also water consumption. Both the discharge of sewer and the actual water consumption are also going to get reduced by approximately 6,600 gallons per day. So in general, to summarize, as a result of the August 3rd meeting, these are the program changes that have been performed that were further highlighted by Attorney Tarby with his planned proposed conditions for special permit approval.
Any questions or comments from the council? Alderman Gately and then Alderman Key.
Did you, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but you did add more money to the lighting, another, was it, we were supposed to do 100,000, you put 50 more thousand with that?
Yeah, we proposed 150.
Yeah, you proposed
Original was
150,000.
100.
You stuck 50,000, some lighting by your driveway, right by your driveways, whatever you.
You want to just review those, Scott?
Yeah, so, yeah, Scott Thornton with Vanessa Associates. So, we had initially, we had proposed a fair share contribution towards the 2 traffic signals, or towards 2 proposed traffic signals. We had identified $84,000. Then we increased that to $100,000, and then based on the meeting last week, the applicants agreed to contribute $150,000 towards those 2 proposed traffic signals. In addition to that, they're also doing an RRFB, the pedestrian flasher, on the north side of the New Boston Street Bridge. That's about $50,000. Then there's a flashing beacon that's proposed at their driveway intersection with New Boston Street. I think that's $40,000. And then there's advanced signage as well. That's part of that. It's part of that package.
Okay. Sounds good.
Alderman Campbell?
I just have a comment. I cannot support this tonight. I do want to thank you for reducing the units from 445 to 425. But by us approving this tonight, if it is approved, we are opening up the gate to that whole section of Woburn for apartments and townhouses. And I personally don't believe we should. We, as I have said over the past couple of years, our traffic issue is really building, and it's only going to get worse. Anybody who lives up in that area is going to eventually come to Woburn Center, come to City Hall. We're talking about 800 to 1,000 people living in that facility. We have a brand-new bridge that's going to be built, and something that former Alderman Ward 6, Mike Raymond, said, I agree with. It starting to approve these massive buildings for apartments in that area is going to, in his words, strangle the whole area. And I agree with him on that. I just feel that once we open the door here on that particular property, I am positive that more are going to come forward, more petitioners. And I'm not quite sure how we go ahead to stop it, because it is going to make a difference with the quality of life for the residents of Woburn. We are going to feel it all the way through all our streets as people are moving to go to Four Corners or any of these other areas. And so I can't support this tonight. I do believe it would be detrimental to the city.
Yeah, I just, I understand your concern, but I just want to clarify one point. This is the only parcel of land on this side of the tracks that's in the overlay district. So the rest of the property is zoned over their industrial park, which doesn't allow any kind of housing. You know, back when the overlay district was adopted, you know, this property was included in the overlay district as a part of the master plan to allow for the easement to go over this property for the new Boston Street Bridge. So I just want to alleviate your concern that there's no other property that could be used for housing on that side of the tracks.
Well, I wish it would alleviate my concerns, but I have seen over the past 6 years overlay districts coming in areas that shouldn't be, and there's one potentially, I won't say where, but potentially being brought forward in another part of Woburn, and I just don't think it's going to stop. So, yes, I agree with you. At this point, on paper, it looks like that more are not going to be done, but unfortunately, I've seen a lot of votes that have been changing what I consider zoning that shouldn't be changed to allow these types of buildings. But yeah, thank you very much, Joe.
Just for the record, I think the last major zoning change that we had was in this Commerce Way Overlay District to reduce the capability of these large housing projects in the Commerce Way Overlay District. And the only reason this one and potentially the one in Anderson Station will be before us is because they froze the zoning prior to adoption of that zoning change that I didn't vote for, but the one that made it more restrictive. I liked the less restrictive version, but that's me. Any other questions or comments from the council? Alderman Mercer Bruin?
I just wanted to follow up on what you just said, President Tedesco, because there were some comments made during the last special permits meeting that we should, you know, this is legally in front of us, and it is, but it was certainly not the intention, perhaps not you, President Tedesco, but it was not the intention of the majority of this city council that the density be what's being proposed here. You all recall, we voted to change that unanimously.
Yes.
On exception.
I would clarify one thing. Prior to the zoning amendment that I had offered with a couple of other aldermen, there was no density restriction. And then we put in a density restriction, and that's the density that they came in at, that they froze at, and then the council voted to decrease it. And I believe that zoning change was unanimous at the time.
Right. It still was a zoning freeze, which is legal, but certainly a very considered among any city or town to be an extremely aggressive act towards what a city wants. So yes, it's legal, it's in your toolbox, but it is an extremely aggressive move. So I appreciate the units have been reduced. I'm not going to support it at the current number, but that shouldn't be a surprise. I did have a quick question, though. As I was going through the conditions, I understood that this was predicated on the completion of the new Boston Street Bridge, and I don't see any condition that says that, unless I missed it.
I believe the site driveway ties into the new Boston Street Bridge, so unless,
I mean, I think it should have a condition that says, you know, until the new Boston Street Bridge is done, we don't build anything.
Well, how do you define that? What's done?
It's open. We have a ceremony. President Tedesco smashes champagne on it. Oh, you won't be here.
I won't be here.
It's open, and we know it's open. So let me ask the city council, what happens if the bridge doesn't open? And let's not pretend that that couldn't happen, because it absolutely could happen.
Well, I mean, we are doing the land takings currently,
Well,
so if we're gonna
But
spend.
we're not done, and it's not done until it's done. So I just want to make people aware of that. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. I just wanted to have my say. Thank you, President Tedesco.
No problem. Is there anyone else on the council? Alderman Gately.
That's a good point, whether that bridge will go up or not. I believe wholeheartedly that they are gonna build it, all right? In fact, I know they're gonna build it. What we're doing right now, to me, is wrong. We strung these people out all summer long, with all these plans, to all the meetings, everything going on. And then at the very end of it, I call it the 11th hour. You call it the 12th. The 11th hour, stuff starts getting pulled back. And you want less this and less that. Well, they turn around, they gave you 20 units less with 3 bedrooms gone, boom. And, you know, an array of parking spaces gone, more open space put in there. And they donated more money to the lighting, you know. These people are doing everything they can to satisfy a need, and they're doing it. Now, whether you're gonna support it or not, we have an obligation to the city. All right? That, and I can't stress this enough, that is a dump area. For dozens and dozens and dozens of years, that was the city dump. Not just our city, Wilmington, other cities used it too. All right? Under that stack of solar panels you see underneath the clay that's up there in the loom, it's probably a half a mile of rubbish, deep, and probably 5 or 6 miles wide. All right? That's how big that place is. Maybe even more, maybe even deeper. So they decided to put a building next to it, next to a landfill. Not so much to care about the city. Hey, you capture dump, you got solar panels up there. We can put a building, a project next to that, and you have Olin Chemical being repaired down the street. All the damage they did, chemicals and stuff they did for years, that's being cleaned up. That end of Woburn for a lot of years was like the armpit of Woburn. All right, everybody went to the dump. Everything went to the dump. They had piggeries up there, and all the piggery stuff went to the dump. Now you're looking what's going to happen. You're going to have a beautiful housing project. You're going to have a new bridge because the kids burnt the other one down. You're going to have a new bridge, new connection to Wilmington. I think it's gonna be nice. And, like Joe said, there's no more units on the other side that can be built as town, as a business, it's all business now, all right? Cannot do any more, homes, any more apartments, hotels or whatever. So, I think it's a good spot. I think it's a good revenue for the city. I don't think they're hurting anybody. It's not a detriment to the neighborhood. It's an improvement in the neighborhood. No, so, I'm gonna support it. I don't know these guys from Adam, but I'm gonna support it. I think it's good for the North Woburn area.
Alderman Dillon?
Through the chair to Alderman Gately, I do agree with a lot of what you've stated. The one thing I don't agree with is the 11th hour. We were in committee last week,
Yeah.
and we removed 20 units, 23-bedroom units, which is substantial for all services that we may need that 20 units in the future to make sure that we're not overburdened with our sewer, our water, our taxes, our police, our fire, and so on. So I'm gonna support it tonight based on the reduction, but I think it was good work in that committee that was done. Thank you.
Alderman Demers?
Thank you, Mr. President. One of my major concerns, having been on the school committee before, was the 3-bedroom units. And I think you guys have done a great job on that reduction to kind of lower the impact. I just did a basic sketch up of if the 3-bedroom units had 2 children, I cut the size of the possible amount of kids in half. That's a whole classroom. So cutting that out, I think, helps the schools be able to, obviously across the grade level, spread out any potential impact on the schools. Having also worked in the legislature for 10 years for our former state representative, I know very much about the process that undertook on the New Boston Street Bridge. And when Jim came into office, it was probably 25% pre-design, and now it's 100% package received, which is what the DOT refers to it at. And from what I gather, I did hear that they were going to be looking at either August or September for shovels in the ground once the land taking procedures had been taken care of. So in comparison to where this project could have been bounced in years past or moved back, it's programmed for the 2021 tip. The bridge is going to get done. And, I'm sure our colleagues over in Wilmington aren't too fond of the fact that we're going to be utilizing that bridge now to move some of this traffic towards their community, but it is an egress out of Woburn that did not exist before, and probably people are going to be utilizing that to get to 93 by going over to I believe, is it 129?
129.
Yeah, 129, right down Industrial Parkway, you're gonna be at.
Correct. You could go the other way, or you could go even farther down by Lucci's. So my point being, I think the bridge being built, it's going to happen. The reduction takes care of an issue that I had. And I think we have multiple options for the traffic to move that isn't just going to be centralized on Mishawam Road. And that alleviated a lot of my concerns. So I'll be supporting the project.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Alderman Concanon?
Just a quick clarification on the point that I made in committee that was referenced by my friend from East Woburn. What I was saying was the petition came in under the rules. That's a true statement. The rules that were in effect at the time this petition was filed, those rules were being followed. Council, the mayor and the planning director had concerns about density. We moved to reduce the density, restrict the density, as the president referenced it. We did that. That became the statement of this city in terms of how we felt density should be in these overlay districts. But this petition was filed according to the rules. That's the point I was making. So we need to judge it based on the rules in place at the time. To Alderman Campbell's point, which I share, I do think it's time, and I said this last week in committee, I think it's time that we take a look at zoning in general. If we don't want things like this, we need to change the rules before the petitions get filed. You can't punish the petitioner for taking advantage of the rules that were in place at the time. That is how we would lose on appeal. So if we want to have the discussion about rezoning and limiting density, I'm all for it. I think it's time. But not with this petition. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Mercer Bruin?
So first, I want to thank Alderman Demers for the clarification and his, clearly, you believe 100% that the new Boston Street is going to be built.
That's correct.
Relatively soon, from what I heard you say. If you are truly in support and commit to that, I don't understand why it can't be a condition, especially if it's going to happen as soon as you say. So that's my first comment. Secondly, at the very, very least, if the council isn't going to commit to that, I doubt very much they will, the contribution towards the mitigation, this mitigation should absolutely not be money. It should be the signalization and the upgrades at Merrimack and New Boston Street. It should be the whole ball of wax. This is this is a huge, huge development. That is a small amount of money to do the whole thing. So that's all I got, and I'm sure President Tedesco, you're glad about that. Thank you.
I've already missed dinner, so we
I
can
know.
keep going.
I promise I won't say anything else.
Make them cough on water.
Huh?
Choke on water.
I make a motion to open a public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, motion carries. Excuse me. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the petition by FRH Realty LLC? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one.
Mr. President, before we close the hearing, I do want to review these conditions.
Okay. I mean,
These ones?
the changes seem just related to the unit count. Nothing seemed to have changed from committee other than that and the site plan, so I have no real issue with your proposed changes, Attorney Tyree. Anyone else on the council have any questions or concerns?
I'm going to make a motion that a condition be added, that the building of these units is predicated on the completion of the new Boston Street Bridge.
Second.
Roll call.
Sorry, to clarify that, can I ask that? That would be number 18,
Yes.
and the motion, and the condition would read,
That the construction of these units not be completed until the new Boston Street Bridge has been completed.
On the motion.
construction of,
Or maybe those aren't the right
wait,
words.
construction of
but-
unit, sorry.
So what I'm trying to get at here
Yes.
is that the units aren't constructed until the new Boston Street Bridge is built. And from what I heard my fellow alderman say, that is going to be relatively soon, and he is absolutely convinced of it. So I don't know why I wouldn't get some support for that condition.
Alderman
Can I
Ferrullo?
just-
On there's a motion and a second.
Can I just clarify the wording? before we
Yes,
move on?
yes.
So it says, construction of units will not be completed.
The construction
Of
of the,
units will not be completed until the new Boston Street Bridge is,
the construction, the development of this site will not start until the new Boston Street Bridge is completed and open. Is that clear?
Yeah, no.
until. Sorry,
The
just
whole,
writing it down.
yep,
Boston.
the whole pitch for this thing has been about new Boston Street Bridge, so that's my motion. Is that, Lindsay, did I get that so it makes some sort of sense? I'm really sorry.
It's okay, I'm still writing.
That's it?
Hold on one second. Just read it back for us, Clerk Higgins, when you have a moment.
Yep, I'm just finishing it. I believe this is what you said. The development of the site will not start until the new Boston Street Bridge is completed and opened?
Yep.
Perfect, okay, thank you.
Alderman Ferrullo and then Alderman Demers.
Attorney Tyree, if you hypothetically, you may not know this answer, there's a construction schedule for the bridge beside the construction schedule for the project. How close do they end up together?
Probably close, right, Rob? Yeah, first of all, we can't agree to any, the public hearing is still open, I guess, so we can't agree to any condition that's going to hold off construction until the bridge is built.
My question
I
is
know, but
really-
I'm just saying, the thing will be foreclosed on. I'm just making a comment to the suggested condition. But your question is how close are the...
How close are they together?
Want to address that, Will?
I think they're waiting for the railroad.
Rob Hewitt with Fairfield Residential. From what I understand, the bridge construction is 2 to 2.5 years long from start to finish. Our construction period is 2 to 2.5 years long. And so we want to open our project after the bridge is completed as close as possible.
If you relate two Gantt charts together, they'd end in the same column, or pretty close to the same column.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't intend to start construction until the bridge starts construction, because we want some certainty on when the end of the construction is gonna be. But we have to be constructing at the same time as the bridge so that we can keep our project rolling.
Understood.
Alderman Demers?
Yeah, I would, it concerns me when we're attaching conditions to a project based on a Mass DOT project. Now, that being said, my confidence in that project moving forward should have nothing to do with the fact that, or putting a condition on a special permit. I don't believe so personally, because I don't work for DOT. I'm not an engineer. I did not mention the lifespan of the project of the bridge. I'm just saying it is shovel-ready and ready to go. So once that shovel is in the ground, that bridge is gonna be built. And it's shovel-ready, farther than it's ever been before in any type of process. There is no delaying it down the funding schedule. Okay, so that's why I won't be supporting, and I think it sets a bad precedent, because we could have conditioned anything on the Vale based on any other project on Montvale Ave, or any other, the Salem Street Bridge.
Some of it is, sorry.
Alderman Demers has the floor.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm just saying, it sets an extremely bad precedent if we're gonna be relying on Mass DOT projects to be complete. And a petitioner such as this would be at the courthouse before the ink dried on the motion tonight.
Through the chair.
Alderman Mercer Bruin,
So,
you got the floor.
So, I don't want to talk about other projects we've already approved, but yes, the Vale was, many of the things that are happening on Montville Ave have to be complete before they do many things. But at the end of the day, one of the things that really perturbs me about this is we're talking about now a condition but for the new Boston Street Bridge, but the whole time we've been talking about this, it's been predicated on the completion of the new Boston Street Bridge. So now everybody's all up in arms now that I want to condition it based on the new Boston Street Bridge. I get it, you're not going to support it, I just don't understand any of it. So,
Who predicated it on that?
anyway, thank you, President Tedesco.
Clerk Higgins, call the roll.
Alderman Tedesco, just for the record,
No, there was a motion to amend the proposed condition, so we can vote on it now.
I'm not sure you closed the public hearing. I don't want...
No, we haven't closed the public hearing yet.
Okay, all right.
No, yep. And just, Alderman Lannon, just for the record, you have to abstain on the vote.
So just to confirm, this is there was a motion and second to
Amend the proposed
amend
conditions.
with number 18 as
Correct.
outlined by Alderman Mercer Bruin, correct?
Correct, on a roll call vote, yes.
Roll call. Alderman Campbell.
Aye.
Alderman Concanon.
Opposed.
Alderman Demers.
Opposed.
Alderman Dillon.
Opposed.
Alderman Ferrulo. Alderman Gately.
Opposed.
Alderman Lannon abstain. Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Favor.
President Tedesco.
Opposed. Motion fails, 2 to 6 to 1. Any other questions or comments from the council?
Just want to make a motion that condition number 16, section C, be changed to read: the petitioner agrees to install signalization of the New Boston Street at Merrimack Street and New Boston Street at Woburn Street Presidential Way intersections.
So,
prior to occupancy, temporary or otherwise.
So C
Can I
will
ask-
read, the petitioner will install future signalization of the New Boston Street at Merrimack Street and New Boston Street at Woburn Street Presidential Way intersections prior to the issuance of a occupancy permit.
Temporary or otherwise.
On the motion?
I don't believe there was a second.
I have a question on that. How does that,
There's no, I guess you can ask the question, but there's really nothing before us
how
on the
does
floor,
that affect things, Joe, by doing that?
Well, number one, you're asking us to install 2 full traffic signal intersections that the peer reviewer nor the city engineer has requested. The mitigation that we have on the table was consistent with what the city engineer was okay with. So we shouldn't share the burden of 2 full traffic signals. That's well in excess of $1 million.
Okay, thank you.
There's a motion and no second. Is there anything, other comments or questions from the council?
I make a motion to pass it.
Public hearing's open.
Got to close the public hearing first.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to grant the special permit with the
I make that motion.
17 proposed conditions provided by Attorney Tyree this evening?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Clerk Higgins, will you call the roll?
This is a motion and a second to grant the special permit with the 17 conditions as outlined by the petitioner as of tonight. All those in favor by roll call. Alderman Campbell.
Opposed?
Alderman Concanon.
Favor.
Alderman Demers.
Favor.
Alderman Dillon.
Favor.
Alderman Ferrulo. Alderman Gately.
Favor.
Alderman Lannon abstains. Alderman Mercer Bruin.
Opposed.
President Tedesco.
Favor. Motion carries 6-1. Thank you.
Sure.
Next, we have a motion. Is there a motion to take the next 2 matters collectively?
So moved.
Make it so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. It's the rooftop dining and outdoor dining zoning amendments offered by myself, Alderman Ferrulo, and Alderman Demers. I spoke with the city solicitor. She hasn't been able to get to it. She's been working on easement documents. So she said she will have something for our last meeting in September, so I'm going to ask that we continue it to then, but also send a communication to her asking to have recommendations by September 13th, when we have committee meeting week, that week. So I'll ask that, I'll ask for that after we open and continue, yeah.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anyone here who wishes to be heard on the 2 zoning amendments, one relative to outdoor dining and the other relative to rooftop dining? Seeing no one, is there a motion to continue the public hearing to our second meeting in September, which is September 21st, and send a communication to the city solicitor for her recommendations for
continue.
changes by September 13th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next,
Motion to return. Motion to return to the regular order of business. You took them collectively.
We don't know. If you take them collectively, you don't have to, yep.
Uh,
Is there a motion to suspend the rules and take from the table the petition by 285 Locust Street?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We did receive a communication from Mr. Duffy requesting for leave to withdraw without prejudice. Is there a motion to accept that communication and make it part of the permanent record?
So
I'll make a
moved.
motion.
Second.
Accept it, make it part of the permanent record.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to grant the minor modifications specifically related to the proposed signage illumination?
No,
Yeah.
you just,
We just,
you need to vote to, you just, you accepted the communication to withdraw.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing the motion now, or I'm saying the motion, suggesting the motion for allowing it for leave to withdraw. We have to vote to allow leave for withdrawal.
Sorry, I thought you said approve minor modification.
No.
Okay.
oh, that's what I heard too.
No, I said, is there a motion to allow for leave? Yeah. Is there-
Withdrawal.
Yes. Is there a motion to allow the leave for withdrawal of the minor modification relative specifically to the proposed signage illumination?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
A long night.
Make a motion to open a public hearing.
Next, we have committee reports. Oh, is there a motion to return to the regular order?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have committee reports. Is there a motion that the committee report be adopted relative to the authorization to the mayor to grant a street widening easement over the former Stone and Branch? The committee report was received ought to pass. Is there a motion to adopt the committee report?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That carried over from that one. Next, we have a committee report from Ordinance, Charter, and Rules relative to salaries for reserve police officers. A communication or a committee report was received ought to pass. Is there a motion that the committee report be adopted?
So moved.
Make a motion to adopt
All
the
those in
committee
favor?
report.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0-2 with Concanon and Ferrulo abstaining. Next, under public safety and licenses, we have a committee report was received ought to pass for Musto Jewelers. It was received ought to pass with existing conditions or restrictions for renewal of a secondhand dealer's and secondhand collector's license. Is there a motion that the committee report be adopted?
So moved.
I make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, there was a communication by myself relative to earlier adoption of the fiscal year 2022 capital budget. Is there a motion that the matter be received and placed on file?
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. There's a communication from Charlie O'Connor, the parking clerk. Is there a motion that the communication be received and made and placed on file?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Under appointments and elections, on the first one, the appointment of James A. Giuliano to the Board of Trustees of the Woburn Public Library. Is there a motion and a second that the communication be received and made part of the permanent record and the matter be referred to the Committee on Personnel?
So moved. Second.
Make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next 5 matters are all relative to reappointments of members of various boards. Is there a motion to take the next 5 matters collectively?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And is there a motion and a second that the communications on those reappointments be received and made part of the permanent record and that the matters be laid on the table?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have the nope, that you don't need. Ordered that the following list of wardens, clerks, inspectors, and substitutes be approved for all elections between September 1st, 2021 and August 31st, 2022. Is there a motion that the order be adopted?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
No,
Second.
motion to
All
accept
those
the
in
poll
favor?
workers, right?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're adjourned. Oh, wait. Did someone have something to
I
say?
don't know, I heard a lot of whoa-whoas.
Oh, I do have one thing for the record. I beat Alderman Demers by 1 stroke golfing on Friday, and I thought that should be in the record.
Please record that, Clerk Lindsay.
Oh, if I didn't need a drink already, now I do.
With that being said, we're adjourned.